Is your local business or organization looking to give back to the community? Help keep our roads clean by joining the Adopt a Road program administered by Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful. Keeping our roads clean is a great way for team building as well as exposure for your business. Select the road your business wants to adopt and dispatch a team to remove litter and debris. Participants will receive 2 signs showing their organization's name as well as safety equipment and instructions for cleaning roads. You can help keep Tampa Bay beautiful by adopting your own road today. To learn more, visit hcflgov.net/cleanhc.
Plastic bags can be recycled curbside, but they can't. When you put recyclables in a plastic bag, it gets tangled in the sorting machine and ruins recycling. Let's all properly recycle.
Let's all properly recycle. Let's all properly recycle. Let's all properly recycle. Leave out the plastic bags.
Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission, the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Good evening and welcome to the August 8th, 2022 public hearings of the Planning Commission on the City of Plant City. Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. That's planner@plancom.org. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and a discussion, a vote will be taken. With that, I'd like to ask the clerk to please go ahead and call roll.
Good evening, Bernstein.
Here.
Baza. Cardenas.
Here.
Fernandez. Handy. Kress.
Here.
Lauk.
Here.
Powell.
Here.
Saria.
Here.
Orton.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Chair Joseph.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum, sir.
All right, thank you. Our first and only item of business is PCCPA 22-04, Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment, Gateway District, and the presenter is Mark Hudson.
-04. It is related to the Gateway District. We are taking this out of cycle at the request of Plant City. They recently completed a major infrastructure project along this corridor, and they want to get their land development regulations in place as soon as they can, because they do expect a lot of development to occur since those facilities have been put in. And of course, we have to make some edits to the comprehensive plan to be consistent with that. As already mentioned, this affects the Gateway District. It is a publicly initiated and a text amendment. I've already mentioned it is out of cycle. And predominantly what we're doing here is we're taking some of the detail out of the comprehensive plan and moving those design guidelines into the land development regulations and ensuring that the remaining text remains consistent. It affects about 300 acres within Plant City, and I'll show you a graphic of that in a moment. I will let you know, even though this was a text amendment, we notified all the property owners within the district and all the property owners within 250 feet of the district. This shows you the location of the Gateway District. It is the southern entry into the municipality. It's along both sides of James L. Redmond Parkway, which is also State Road 39. It begins at Charlie Griffin Road to the north and goes all the way to Kilgore Road. I've turned this graphic 90 degrees on its side so I could get the whole graphic onto the slide. South is to the left, north is to the right, and the area surrounded by the lavender dashed line is the mixed-use gateway, or the Gateway District, now it's going to be known. Predominantly is undeveloped. They did provide water and sewer facilities all the way along this corridor and completed that project just recently. And predominantly the only thing of significance that has been developed in there so far is the large campus for the First Baptist Church of Plant City. And you can see that up in the northeast corner of the corridor. So what are we doing? We've moved the design requirements and architectural standards to the LDRs. Those were in the comp plan only as a holding until they were able to complete the land development regulations. Things such as building height and building placement, parking regulations, things of that nature, that detailed design criteria are being moved to the LDRs. And we have included the draft as part of your packet in the back of our report. It will require a mix of uses. Probably the most significant change is currently in the requirements is to have a mix of uses on every single parcel. That has proven to be very difficult from staff's perspective, particularly some of these parcels are very small, ranging from half an acre all the way up to 50 acres. Also, there's a very varied ownership pattern within the district. And the city has put in place provisions to encourage a mix of uses within the corridor as a whole, and not necessarily requiring them on every single parcel. The city also requested, and we added language to require cross connections between properties, particularly to give that cohesive development pattern to the district, and not require people who want to garner commercial and office and other activities within jurisdiction to always have to go out onto James L. Roman Parkway and cause issues with and impact that facility. We also have ensured that not only are there vehicular cross-access, but also bicycle and pedestrian cross-access. We've also improved the coordination provisions with the city and DOT, which James L. Roman Parkway is a DOT facility, and with Hillsborough County, and most of the adjacent properties around the mixed-use gateway are within unincorporated county. Most things have not changed. And just to give you a little recap here, the floor area ratio remains at 0.35, the density remains at 16 DUs an acre, the uses remain unchanged, predominantly commercial, office, civic, and residential uses. We'll continue to prohibit strip commercial development. Again, that cross-access will ensure that that does not occur, and also provisions such as a Bill 2 line. We did review the text with the Imagine 2040 Plant City Comprehensive Plan. In particular, we looked at neighborhood conservation, community development, commercial development, growth management, land development regulations, and economic growth. And the complete objectives and policies are within your packet. And we felt that it was consistent with all the provisions that I've noted in these last two slides. The timeline for this, it is out of cycle. We're here to garner your recommendation here today. We'll be looking to garner the recommendation of the Planning Board on August 24th, and that's a Wednesday morning at 8:30 a.m. At City Hall. This will require transmittal to DEL. We have a transmittal hearing scheduled for September 26th. We don't have the exact adoption hearing date, but I do know the city administration wishes to have this completed before the end of the calendar year. With that, Planning Commission staff recommends that PCCPA 22-04 be found consistent with the Imagine 2040 Plant City Comprehensive Plan and to forward this recommendation to the Plant City Commission. I stand for any questions. I do not believe there's any Plant City staff members here to present, and I'm not aware of any individuals who wish to come out and speak to this, but obviously we need to make that inquiry.
Thank you. All right. We did not have anyone sign up in the public comment for this item, so we will turn it over to the planning commissioners for questions or discussions of this item at this time. Not seeing any questions, I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the planning commissioners. Commissioner Bernstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would move that we find Plant City Comprehensive Plan Amendment 22-04 Gateway District consistent with the Imagine 2040 Plant City Comprehensive Plan, and that we pass it along to the Plant City Commission with that recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Bernstein and a second to that motion by Commissioner Powell. Is there any more discussion of this item? Comments from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time. I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein,
Yes.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Kress,
Yes.
Lauk,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Daria,
Yes.
Chair Joseph.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, the City of Plant City public hearing is now adjourned. And if you all will bear with me for just a moment, I will read us into the City of Tampa ones. All right, welcome to the August 8th, 2022 public hearing of the Planning Commission on the City of Tampa Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. That's planner@plancom.org. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. With that, I'd like to ask the clerk to call roll, please.
Bernstein,
Here.
Mazza, Cardenas,
Here.
Fernandez, Handy, Kress,
Here.
Lauk,
Here.
Powell,
Here.
Daria,
Here.
Chair Joseph.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. All right, our first item of business is 2A TACPA 22-09, a comprehensive plan map amendment, multiple folios, and the presenter is Danny Collins.
Good evening. This is Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. Today I will be presenting TACPA 2209. It's a map amendment for multiple folios generally located northeast of the intersection of West Barn Avenue and South McDill Avenue. Here is the locational map. The subject site is within the South Tampa Planning District. It's within the Ballast Point neighborhood. It's shown here on our locational map. The subject site is also within the Colsa Hazard area, and it's within the McDill Air Force Base flight path. Between 2005 and 2007, the City of Tampa, as well as the Ballast Point community, worked together to develop a consensus on managing development in the flight path. As a result of this effort, there were multiple policies, including Land Use Policy 8.3.1 that was adopted, which limits residential development in the flight path. Here is the aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site. It's highlighted in yellow and outlined in black. It's generally northeast of the intersection of West Farn Avenue and South McDill Avenue. The surrounding area is predominantly residential in character. There are single-family detached uses to the east and northeast of the subject site, and also to the west of the subject site, west of South McDill Avenue. Directly to the south and southeast of the subject site is a townhome development. And then to the northeast of the subject site is McDill 48 ELAP Park. The subject site is approximately 1.5 miles north of McDill and about 1/2 mile south of Interbay Boulevard. This is an image looking east at the subject site from South McDill Avenue. This is looking north along South McDill Avenue. The subject site is out of frame to the right. This is looking west across from the subject site. This is West Farn Avenue. This is looking south along South McDill Avenue. The subject site is out of frame to the left. And this is looking at the townhome development that's situated south of the subject site. And finally, this is looking at the detached single-family neighborhood located to the west of the subject site. Just a quick background, this is a privately initiated amendment. It's small scale in size. The subject site is approximately 1.42 acres. Currently, the subject site has 2 future land use designations. A majority of the site is recognized under the residential 20 designation, and then the remaining portions are recognized under the residential 10. This request would downplan the portions of the site currently with the designated residential 20 to the residential 10 designation to recognize the entire site under the residential 10 designation. Here's the adopted future land use map. You'll see a majority of the subject site is recognized under the residential 20 designation. The residential 20 designation allows for residential development up to 20 dwelling units per acre. Single family attached, detached, and multifamily uses can be considered in that designation. And then the southeastern portion of the site is recognized under the residential 10 designation, which allows consideration of residential development up to 10 dwelling units per acre. The residential 20 designation is to the north, west, and south of the subject site. The residential 10 designation is to the northeast and east of the subject site. Directly northwest of the subject site is land recognized under the recreation open space designation. As you move south towards McDill, there are folios along South McDill Avenue that are recognized under the CMU 35 designation. This is the proposed future land use map. You'll see the entire site is recognized under the would be recognized under the residential 10 designation. These green lines on the future land use map denote the coastal hazard area. This is a slide showing the potential impacts of the proposed change. Currently, under the residential 20 and residential 10 designation, the entire site can be considered for 25 dwelling units, or just over 29,300 square feet of non-residential development. That would be subject to locational criteria. As proposed under the residential 10, the subject site can be considered for 13 dwelling units, or 21,649 square feet of non-residential development. Again, that would be subject to locational criteria. I do want to note that since the subject site is within the flight path, the site is limited to 10 dwelling units per acre. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it consistent with several policies in the comprehensive plan. The request will continue to maintain the stability of single-family areas while expanding opportunities for housing choices in the city as a whole and in the Ballast Point neighborhood. As mentioned earlier in my presentation, the site is within the McDill Air Force flight path. Land use policy 8.3.1 limits all new residential development to 10 dwelling units per acre. The request for the R10 would be consistent with the density that's anticipated in the flight path. Overall, the comprehensive plan seeks to direct populations away from the coastal hazard area and seeks no net increase in overall density within the coastal hazard area. This request would actually remove density and would actually remove 12 dwelling units, potential dwelling units from the coastal hazard area. So overall, it was consistent with the coastal management policies in the comprehensive plan. And finally, the request supports housing policies which promote infill development on vacant or underutilized land. By recognizing the site under the residential 10 designation, the applicant will be better able to utilize the site and provide additional housing opportunities in the South Tampa Planning District. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening, Clayton Bricklemeyer, Hillward Henderson, 101 East Kennedy. For the applicant, I just want to thank Danny for his work and staff for their work, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate their recommendation, and I have a small team available for questions if anyone should have any.
All right, thank you. Did we have anyone sign up for public comments on this one? How do you tell? Okay. Looks like we have one. Josh Nicholson.
I was just available for questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So no, that's it. All right. We will now turn it over to our planning commissioners for comments or questions, discussions on this item. Seeing none at this time, I will go on ahead and close public comment and open it up to the planning commissioners for motions on this item. Commissioner Cardenas.
Each of this time. Move forward to approve TCPA 22-09. I'd like to make a motion, sorry.
All right. We have a motion of consistency finding?
Yes.
Yeah, consistency finding. Is there a second anywhere out there? Commissioner Soria?
I'll second it.
I'm going to let him have it, Commissioner Bernstein, because you've been busy all night. So, we have a motion of consistency finding from Commissioner Cardenas, a second to that motion by Commissioner Soria. Are there any questions, discussions, or comments from the commissioners? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Lauk?
Yes.
Howell?
Yes.
Saria?
Yes.
Chair Joseph?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. On to our next item of business is 2B TACPA 22-10 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment. And the presenter is Emily Phelan.
Hi, Emily Phelan with your Planning Commission staff. The applicant is unavailable tonight and is requesting a continuance to the September 12th, 2022 public hearing.
And they specifically ask that you all take a motion on that so that they can preserve their notice for the next meeting.
September 12th?
Yes.
All right. Any questions or discussions for commissioners? No, I'll open it up to motions then on this continuance. Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion that regarding CPA 22-10 that we continue this until the September 12th meeting.
All right. Motion for
Second.
All right. We have a motion for continuance by Commissioner Powell to the September 12th meeting. Second by Commissioner Kress. Is there any questions or discussions, commissioners? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Lauk?
Yes.
Howell?
Yes.
Saria?
Yes.
Chair Joseph?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. All right. Now to our last item of business, number 2C, TACPA 22-11 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 2502 and 2504 North Boulevard and 702 West Columbus Drive, and the presenter is Sam Thomas.
Good evening, Sam Thomas with your Planning Commission staff. This is TACPA 2211 at 2502, 2504 North Boulevard and 702 West Columbus Drive. Some background on this, it's privately initiated, small scale, approximately 0.82 acres, and the request is to go from residential 10, residential 20, community mixed use 35, to community mixed use 35 and residential 35. Here is the site on your locational map. It is in the Central Tampa Planning District in the Ridgewood Park neighborhood. Here's an aerial overview of the subject site and the surrounding area. The subject site is highlighted in yellow and outlined in red at the intersection of West Columbus Drive and North Boulevard, just north of West Amelia Street. West of North Boulevard and south of East Columbus, right here is the Ridgewood Park neighborhood where the subject site is located. This neighborhood is predominantly single-family detached homes When you move farther to the west, it is bound by the Hillsborough River. When you go over to the east side of North Boulevard, this is the Tampa Heights neighborhood and the Tampa Heights Urban Village. It's characterized by a mix of single-family detached and attached homes, along with multifamily units. And then when you move farther south to West Palm Avenue is where you get into the Heights development with a mix of multifamily, office, and commercial spaces. This is looking north along North Boulevard at the subject site, along the left side of the frame. This is also looking north along North Boulevard at West Amelia Avenue, and the subject site is directly in front of you and on the left side of the frame. This is looking west from the subject site. This is one of those single-family attached units. And this is looking east at the subject site from North Boulevard. This is the adopted future land use map. You can see the site is currently recognized by the R35 along West Columbus Drive, the residential 10, residential 20, and then the residential 10 again. Directly to the west of your site, this light brown color is the residential 20 future land use designation. That can also be found north of Columbus Drive along here. Then once you move farther west in the Ridgewood Park neighborhood, it's mainly residential 10 future land use designation. This light green here is the recreational open space, that's Phillips Park. Then along Columbus Drive, you have the community mixed use 35 in this purplish color. Up in the top right-hand corner here, this light blue is public, semi-public, that's the Villa Madonna School. And then once you cross that North Boulevard line over to Tampa Heights, this darker brown color is the R35 future land use designation. Here is a map of the proposed future land use. You can see the site is recognized under the CMU 35 and the residential 35 designations. This is a slide showing the potential impacts of the request. Currently, the site can be considered for 19 units or 41,000 square feet of residential or non-residential uses. Under the proposed request, the site can be considered for 29 units or 51,000 square feet of residential or non-residential uses. The proposed amendment would allow for additional density and intensity and would introduce the possibility of multifamily on the R35 portion of the site and office, professional, commercial, general on the CMU 35 portion of the site. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the request and found it consistent with multiple aspects of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan has policy direction that seeks to protect existing residential areas while balancing the need for new development to be compatible with the neighborhood character. Additionally, the comprehensive plan identifies the need to designate enough land for housing options to meet the needs of Tampa's growing population and to consider the development of mixed-use areas in all districts that can accommodate local serving commercial, employment, entertainment uses. The requested increase in density and intensity will meet this policy direction while still providing a balance to the neighborhood character that the comprehensive plan seeks to protect. Additionally, the comprehensive plan has direction that seeks to protect promotes the development pattern consistent with the compact city form strategy, which encourages mixed-use infill development within proximity to transit employment service. Transit service is located adjacent to the site along West Columbus Drive, which also provides employment opportunities. The subject site is located at the edge of the neighborhood, at the corner of 2 arterial roadways and 3 blocks from the Heights development, a large-scale mixed-use development with retail, office, and multifamily uses. Due to the subject site's location to employment and transit, the site will maximize the use of existing infrastructure and promote additional housing opportunities on underutilized parcels. Increasing the density and intensity that supports walking and transit is consistent with several objectives of the policies of the comprehensive plan that promote encouraging new infill development on underutilized land and promoting housing choices within proximity to employment and civic uses and transit corridors. The Planning Commission staff finds that the proposed request is comparable and compatible with the neighborhood based on the surrounding land use pattern, and that the requested change will allow the applicant the same development potential as what it currently interfaces on North Boulevard to the east. In conclusion, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Looks like the applicant has a presentation. All right.
William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, for the record. We have no presentation, nothing to add to Mr. Thomas's fine presentation. We're just here to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have quite a few names here on the list for public comment, so I'm just going to go down it here. I presume some people aren't going to want to speak because I see Mr. Will Malloy's name on the list here, so, but I'm going to call you anyway. Okay, so Ron Weaver. Okay. All right, and I have Will Malloy, of course, covered that one. I have a Julia. The last name looks like it starts with a G. Might be Gomez. Gomes. No? All right. Isabel. No. Okay. And lastly, Dan. Last name looks like Oxter. Ochsteel, maybe? No, Dan? All right. That's all we had sign up for the public comment. I'll give you an opportunity for rebuttal, even though no one spoke. Good? Okay. All right. Then we'll turn it over to the commissioners at this point in time for comments, questions, and discussions of this item. Not seeing any from the commissioners. I will go on ahead and close public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we find TACPA 2211 consistent and for this recommendation to Tampa City Council.
Commissioner Lowe.
Second.
All right. We have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Powell, a second to that motion by Commissioner Lauk. Is there any more discussion or comments from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time. I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Press?
Yes.
Lauk?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Daria?
Yes.
Chair Joseph?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried, 7-0.
All right. Thank you. And that was the last item for our City of Tampa public hearing. So I'll adjourn that one and read us into our Hillsborough County public hearing. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the August 8th, 2022 public hearings of the Planning Commission on the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. That's planner@plancom.org. For those of us who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following the presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and a discussion, vote will be taken. With that, I'd like to ask the clerk to call roll, please.
Bernstein?
Here.
Buzza? Cardenas?
Here.
Fernandez? Handy? Kress?
Here.
Lauk?
Here.
Powell?
Here.
Daria?
Here.
Orton?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Chair Joseph?
Here.
Thank you. Have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. All right. Our first item of business is 2A, Hccpa 22-01, Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment, Commercial Locational Criteria Study. And the presenter is Melissa Leinhardt.
Good evening, Commissioners. Andrea Papandrew with your Planning Commission staff. I'll be introducing the item this evening. This is Hccpa 22-01, Commercial Locational Criteria. So Melissa Leinhardt and I have been co-managing this project since the summer of 2021. The presentation is going to take the full time this evening, so please bear with us. We've gone through several iterations of the draft language over the past few months, and our slides really clarify that evolution of that language. So the Planning Commission hired S&ME as the consultant for this study. Nick Hill will be presenting virtually, joined by Pat Tyjeski. And after the consultant's presentation, I will summarize staff's consistency finding. Nick, whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Good evening. Can I get confirmation that you can both see and hear me before I begin?
We can hear you. We can't see you.
Oh, it says my video's on.
Well, the presentation's on this.
We can see the presentation.
Your video's on, the presentation's on, so.
Understood. Okay, excellent. So I'll just go ahead and begin. My name is Nick Hill, and I'm a staff planner at SNME and one of the consultants working on the project. I'm joined by another planner from my firm, Pat Tayeski, who is also here for follow-up and further questions. Let's just dive right in. The commercial locational criteria is currently found within Objective 22 of the future land use element of your comprehensive plan and provides policies regarding the location, scale, and extent of commercial development within the unincorporated area. Yet, at its core, the CLC is really intended to ensure that new commercial developments, one, assist residents in meeting their daily needs for goods and services within a reasonable distance from their neighborhood. Two, reflect the character of the surrounding community through context-sensitive building, design, and connectivity standards. And three, results in orderly, compact development patterns. Next slide, please. In terms of outreach, we had both a project page on the Commission's website and a standalone interactive project website, which had nearly 300 responses, 80 comments, and over 50 downloads of the previous CLC drafts and summaries. Outreach also included multiple newspaper advertisements, targeted email blasts, social media posts, newsletter mentions, partnerships, and of course, responding to citizen comments made via email, phone, or in-person communications daily. And as far as meetings go, we had 12 individual interviews with the Board of County Commissioners, group interviews with the Planning Commission, 4 meetings with county staffs, 4 community meetings, 3 stakeholder interview sessions from the development community, transportation advocates and organizations, and engaged citizen groups. And upon their request, we even met with developers again after their stakeholder interview, late in the project's lifespan, to discuss some final improvements that need to be made to the CLC, which are reflected in the documents you have before you. Now, there's a lot of detail on the slide that we can come back to later if you have further questions about the community engagement process, but for now, we should probably move on to the next slide. Through this extensive engagement process, we heard from nearly every sector of your community, including residents, developers, stakeholders, elected officials, advocates, activists, businesses, families, retirees, and so on and so forth. Although we heard a wide range of perspectives and opinions, particularly on the allowance of neighborhood commercial within those rural and low-density areas, which we'll talk a lot about tonight, we heard a lot of the same ideas and themes arise time after time, no matter who the audience was, such as, let's promote context-sensitive development by revising standards for commercial accessibility, connectivity, and scale. Protect the character of neighborhoods by limiting the size and location of commercial development, particularly within those rural areas. Advance connectivity and quality design standards where appropriate. Establish flexible development standards and waiver opportunities to assist developers in providing commercial when and where appropriate.
What? They have no gas.
Oh, and clarify that the CLC should support the contents of the adopted community plans, not override them. And we use these themes to help form the foundations of the amendments proposed to you today. Next slide, please. Generally, these proposed community-inspired amendments can be broken down into one of 3 categories. The first of which is improvements to the applicability and clarity of the criteria itself. These proposed improvements revises the introduction to Objective 22 to clarify the purpose of the CLC and more accurately reflect its desired effect on commercial development, clarifies the land use categories that are subject to the provisions of Objective 22, more specifically the CLC, identifies which zoning districts may be requested to allow for commercial development, and also establishes a new future land use category, NMU 6, which allows for limited commercial activities without simultaneously permitting higher densities or potential commercial activities which could generate excessive impacts on nearby residents. Next slide, please. The second category of proposed improvements primarily dealt with changes to the CLC's current locational requirements, and included utilizing the context classification map in lieu of your cost affordable map as it is today to determine appropriate locations for commercial development, refining the maximum distance for new commercial developments permitted under the CLC are allowed to be from the intersection, requiring new commercial developments subject to CLC to meet any community planning requirements, if applicable, and establishing a minimum distance between new commercial nodes from existing commercial intersection, which varies based upon their context classification. Now, before moving on to the final category improvements, I would first like to further discuss the slide's first and fourth bullet regarding the use of the context classification map and this nodal separation requirement. Next slide, please. As the first bullet discussed, these amendments would have the county move away from the cost affordable map for CLC purposes and instead rely on the context classification map, because this map more accurately reflects the character of your corridors and thus where commercial would most likely be appropriate today. That being said, this proposed change wasn't made lightly. Your staff really did their homework. They compared the two maps spatially, and using GIS, they were able to determine that using the context classification map in lieu of the cost affordable map will actually increase the total number of eligible commercial intersections by nearly 500. These numbers are further broken down by community plan boundaries. We have a map in the backup slides that we can share if there are questions about this proposed change after this presentation concludes, which I'm sure there will be. Next slide. One of the major pieces of feedback we kept getting from residents, particularly those within the lowest density and rural areas of our county, is that they overwhelmingly did not wish to see every intersection within their community become a commercial node. As a result, we established new separation standards based upon the context classification of intersecting roadways for new commercial nodes, with the largest distance requirements being in our least populated areas and our lowest distance requirements found in our high-density urban areas. Could you advance the animation, please? In fact, these amendments don't require nodal separation for any intersection formed by the combination of suburban commercial, suburban town, and urban general classified roadways, as generally you would expect to see commercial development concentrated in these types of areas. Next animation. Yet we understand that situations arise in which these nodal separation requirements in rural and residential areas may inadvertently prohibit commercial development that may not only be ideal for certain circumstances and certain intersections, but may also help to serve the public good, such as a grocery store or a pharmacy. That is why these amendments allow for waiver opportunities to these nodal separation requirements if certain circumstances exist. Next slide, please. The third and final category of proposed improvements focus on scaling and compatibility, which was perhaps the most popular comments we received throughout this entire process. These proposed changes revises maximum development size per quadrant to ensure context sensitivity between new nodes and nearby developments, limits the scale of commercial developments within low-density residential feature land use categories, establishes site and building design standards for new developments subject to the CLC, which include use limitations to ensure that these developments do not generate excessive impacts to nearby residents, placement of buildings closer to sidewalks in certain areas for improved pedestrian access. Now, just a quick note on that, we are allowing a waiver to this requirement if on-site conditions exist, which effectively prohibit buildings closer to the road. Emphasize internal and external connectivity to support non-motorized modes of transportation and accessibility to the site. Site design regulations to maximize compatibility with not only adjacent developments, but nearby neighborhoods as well. And building design standards to ensure new development maintains the character of its surrounding community in which it's located. And of course, making absolutely certain that the development, if located within a special district like a community planning area, would still be required to meet those special district standards. And if by some chance the CLC ever conflicted with the community plans specifically, the contents of the community plans would take priority. Next slide. Now, all of the concept and changes discussed here today are detailed in the policies found under the revised proposed Objective 22. Now, due to the scope of this objective, whether it's written today or what we're proposing it to be, these policies can at first appear overwhelming. I'll be the first to admit that. That is why right at the start of the objective in policy 22.1, we summarize all of these requirements into one easy, readable, comprehensive master summary table. That way, if the reader wants to quickly understand the county's expectations for commercial development approved through the CLC, they can just check the table. And if they see something in the table and want to understand the requirement further, well, guess what? We have that policy language following that master summary table in the following policies. And just to prove how much the table can tell the reader without reading its preceding policies first, let's just do a potential scenario. Next slide, please. So imagine you're an entrepreneur seeking to establish a small, locally owned coffee shop in a predominantly residential area of the county. Using the master table in policy 22.1, remember right at the start of the objective, you can already identify, does my future land use allow the use? You want to keep up with the animation, there you go. Which zoning districts do I need? Is my development compatible with the surrounding area? How far from an intersection can my shop be located? Am I too close to an existing commercial node? Are there site/building design requirements for my property? How intense can my development be? Is there any room left in the quadrant for my store? And just how big can my use be? Is there any limitations on the total size of my individual building? Next slide. So it can do a whole lot, and we recognize that. But before moving on, I just want to cover a few more details about the table that you may want to know. Generally, the table is organized by allowable density, with the lowest permitted densities near the top and the highest at the bottom. The third column tells the reader which commercial districts could be considered under each future land use category listed to his left. As you can see, the lower permitted density of the future land use, the more limited the types of commercial uses you will be permitted. The fourth column tells us the minimum context classification of roadways needed to permit the desired commercial activity. Next, the distance field tells us how far the use can be located from the intersection, because as we have heard from the community and actually from the CLC's adopted language today, we don't want commercial activity sprawling away from concentrated nodes of activity at the intersection. The sixth column includes the nodal separation requirements, which we already discussed in detail, but can follow up on after the presentation. Building design and placement tells the reader whether the desired commercial use would be expected to meet any site or building design criteria. The floor area ratio column indicates how intense the site's land use and zoning allows the commercial use to be. And the max GFA per quadrant allows the county to make sure that a non-residential node does not escalate to a scale that may be incompatible with its nearby uses, particularly if they're residential. And similarly, the max GFA per tenant prevents a single development from occupying all of the non-residential space at an intersection and further ensures that the commercial building would not be completely out of scale with nearby homes. Now, there's so much more we tell you about this table. We spent a lot of time on it. But for the sake of time today, we should probably move on. However, we can come back to this slide after the presentation concludes if you would like. Next slide, please. Now that the master table contained a lot of standards and numbers, basically representing the location, scale, and extent of commercial development permitted by the CLC. Many of those numbers are proposed to be amended as part of this draft based upon the outpouring of feedback we received from your community over the course of an entire year. And I want to walk you through some of these proposed changes, but in a visual format rather than looking line by line at that table I just showed you. Next slide. Beginning with the agriculture and rural residential categories, the CLC currently permits up to 40,000 square feet of commercial development, but only if you're at the intersection of two 4-lane roads. Otherwise, you may only get like 30,000 or 20,000 or potentially even less. Yet we heard at several meetings, particularly from your rural residents, that 40,000 square feet of potential commercial development within these areas was just too much. As a result, we reduced that 40,000 down to 20,000 square feet, regardless of the number of lanes. And just an FYI, we are not proposing to change the maximum allowable distance from the intersection requirement currently adopted today. Next slide. In the Res 2 future land use category, a very low density residential designation by the county standards, the CLC currently permits up to 110,000 square feet of commercial, but only if you're at the intersection of two 4-lane roads. Otherwise, you may only get 75,000 or 50,000 or even less. Once again, we heard from your community that 110,000 square feet of potential commercial development is just too big for neighborhoods featuring densities this low. As a result, we listened and we pulled back this allotted intensity back to 50,000 square feet. Additionally, we added a tenant cap of 20,000 square feet just to further ensure that any commercial development located near these homes would be somewhat compatible in scale with these residential areas. But because of the important role grocery stores play in our daily lives, we are allowing an exception to that 20,000 square foot cap up to 50,000 feet for grocery store uses. Next slide. The next group of residential land use categories permit slightly more density and can even result in townhomes or even small apartments in tandem with traditionally single-family neighborhoods. Today, these low to medium density residential land use categories permit up to 175,000 square feet of commercial activity if the roadway requirements are met, and like the others, potentially even less depending on the number of lanes and the roadway conditions. Once again, allowing for this scale of commercial development without requiring a commercial future land use designation seems inappropriate within these residential land use categories. As a result, we pulled that square footage back to 110,000, established another square footage cap of 20,000 per tenant, with an exception made for grocery stores similar to the last group. Additionally, we also included Res 9 in this group, as these densities still include single-family neighborhoods that still don't traditionally possess a higher density housing stock like apartments. Next slide, please. Finally, we continue to allow up to 175,000 square feet of commercial activity for your higher density residential land use categories, regardless of the side of the road. Yet, we also now include mixed use designations within that group, but only when the commercial use being proposed is a standalone development and not part of a greater mixed-use project. Next slide, please. Now, another tool to help contextualize the changes proposed for this objective was to develop a few case studies to help demonstrate changes for commercial development approved by the CLC if these changes were implemented today. Now, just a heads up, the renderings you're about to see are purely for illustrative purposes only, and do not represent any planned, known, or ongoing development projects. This is purely just a visual exercise for us. This image is from Google Earth and shows an existing commercial quadrant within unincorporated Hillsborough County. This first case study example allows us to really showcase the building, design, and connectivity criteria proposed as part of this update. Next slide. As you can see, through the CLC, the buildings are required to be pulled up closer to the road and now oriented to pedestrians. Walking paths are established, and connectivity is generally improved throughout the site. You can even imagine that many of those commercial buildings in the back could be used for professional or medical office and still fit the character of both the development itself and the surrounding neighborhoods. Next slide. For the sake of time, we will actually be skipping case study B because it is somewhat similar to case study A, and as we all know, I'm running over, I'm sure. So it is available to see upon request after the presentation concludes. However, for our third case study, we want to provide an example of how the proposed CLC amendments may impact a hypothetical, once again, hypothetical, redevelopment project within a rural area of your county this time. Now remember, the proposed building and design standards for CLC approved properties only apply within residential land use categories with densities 2 dwelling units per acre and above, and thus is not required for very low density areas such as that shown on your slide. Next slide, please. As you can see, the site is still appropriately scaled and designed to match the character of the rural area. It does not exceed the 20,000 square foot maximum required by these proposed amendments. It also shows one of our rural use limitations for the CLC, which is a gas station limited to no more than 4 pumps. It also shows that although motor vehicles are still the primary way to access commercial development within your rural areas, like any other rural area in the county, in any county in Florida, pedestrian and bicycle connections can still be cultivated. Now, I'm going to turn it back to staff to finish the remainder of the presentation. Take it away, Andrea, and thank you so much for having me. I'm here for questions as well as Pat Tajewski. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Again, Andrea Pappinger with your Planning Commission staff. So we received comments from multiple agencies. One I'd like to highlight is the Community Infrastructure Planning Department. They had a lot of great suggestions, and they actually sent in revised comments in support of the current proposed language. Based on the agency feedback we received, we made several changes to the proposed text amendment. A couple that I'd like to highlight include the addition of language to permit gas stations with up to 4 pumps in the residential future land use categories. We clarified and modified the language for office uses. So office uses are now allowed as the principal use at 1 quadrant of the intersection. For the other 3 quadrants of the intersection, offices would be a transition. So we'd place the most intensive commercial uses at the intersection node, and office would be a transition to the residential areas. And lastly, we clarified that the building design, placement, and tenant restrictions apply to all the residential future land use categories, but it is based on context classification. So the building design and placement restrictions do not apply to the suburban commercial or rural context classifications, and the tenant restrictions do not apply to the suburban commercial context classification. So the proposed text amendment is consistent with the future land use element. It's consistent with our neighborhood protection policies under Objective 16 in limiting the uses to only those that help a household meet their daily needs. It's also consistent with Policy 16.5, which calls for developments of higher intensity to be external to establish in developing neighborhoods. Keeping the neighborhood serving commercial uses in these categories at a neighborhood scale is consistent with FLU Policy 16.1 and Community Design Component Goal 9 and Policy 9-1.2. The proposed nodal separation helps to retain the rural and suburban town character and is consistent with Objectives 4, 18, and Policies 18.1, 22.5, 23.2, and Goal 8 of the Community Design Component. The site and building design changes are also consistent with several Community Design Component goals and objectives and policies, including Policy 9-1.4 on the creation of commercial design standards and a scale and design that complements the character of the community. And lastly, policy language was added to ensure that any rezoning application proposing commercial uses shall consider consistency with the community plans as contained in livable communities element, and is consistent with Objective 18 and 18.1. The proposed text amendment is also consistent with the mobility section of the comprehensive plan. Utilizing the context classification map is consistent with Mobility Goal 7, Objective 7.1, and Policy 7.1.1, which emphasizes the importance of placing a multimodal transportation system that supports planned future land use categories. And the proposed changes are designed to support multimodal access, providing choices, safety, and connectivity, and supports multiple mobility policies. And all of these policies are located in your packet. Based on this, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed text amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. The next steps is go to the Board of County Commissioners transmittal hearing on this Thursday. Thank you for your time. Melissa Leinhardt and I and the consultant team are available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. We had quite a few people sign up for this one. So I will start with those who signed up here in person and then move to online. And first up, we have Ron Weaver. Oop, your mic.
Ron Weaver, 401 East Jackson Street. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to defer my time, if I could, to the end. Several of my partners are in other parts of the state attending hearings, and they'd like to appear virtually, and then I'll wrap up after they have appeared virtually, if they can get out of their hearings. If I may move
That's
to
fine.
the end. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have Cammie Corbett.
Good evening, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, Henderson. I'll bite, I'll start. I really appreciate work most of the time and collaborate with them. I am really, really disappointed in where we are this evening. The community engagement thus far has been kind of a microcosm of what happened here tonight. We have 15 or 30 minutes of a consultant explaining what this version of this plan is today and why it's great and why we should like it. And then we have an opportunity to kind of figure out, okay, as the lawyers in the room, okay, what does this actually mean and how does this change everything? And every time I hear the presentation, I feel like I'm hearing a presentation about a different jurisdiction, because it doesn't sound like how the commercial locational criteria are actually applied here. We keep talking about retail and coffee shops and grocery stores. The commercial locational criteria apply to all non-resident, almost all non-residential uses. So for example, the Crystal Lagoon that's located in the Metro development in South Shore Bay, which is a semi-private facility, that actually was required to look at and either satisfy or ask for a waiver from the commercial locational criteria. Under this version of this draft, that could never be built anywhere else in the suburban area, because the Planning Commission staff had found it inconsistent at the time that the zoning application was going through, and yet the Board of County Commissioners approved it anyway because they believed it was an appropriate location, and now with these new regulations, it couldn't even be considered. Also, I represent several medical providers, large medical providers looking for 70 to 80,000 square foot locations for their facilities in these suburban areas. And under these regulations, they would have to go seek a comp plan. The consultant said, oh, it's not appropriate to have a higher level without a comp plan amendment. That's how the comp plan's been set up since the 80s. It's always been that way. We've only needed to do rezonings. And we've expressed those concerns repeatedly. We had a number of people, Mr. Weaver convened a call of engineers, brokers, and lawyers in the area. And one broker was quoted as saying, I'm sophisticated in this real estate business and I can't even figure out what this means. So I feel very strongly that this is not ready. I know you are in a position where you're a recommending body and it's going to go to the board. I'll also be making remarks at the board, but this really, really is not ready, and it is a significant policy change I really don't think should be happening outside the context of the update to the future land use category. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now we will go to online folks or people who signed up. We have Herbert Lee Belcher.
Mr. Belcher has not signed into the meeting.
Okay. How about Jacob Kramer?
Listeners, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hey, thank you. I apologize. Again, Jake Kramer with the law firm Stearns Weaver Miller. I'm a land use attorney. I also have a background in professional land planning, and I spent time at the agency that used to be called the Department of Community Affairs. I'm a board member of the Hillsborough County Farm Bureau, so I also have a special interest in how these amendments may affect the rural and agricultural communities. I think I'll just reinforce all the comments that Cammie made. I think there's some serious issues with this package before you. It really appears to eliminate some significant rights that property owners have in their land use categories as they're existing today, and as she mentioned, since they've existed since the 80s. Nearly across the board, existing commercial intersections are going to have more limited rights than they do today. I really have concerns about how that's going to be applied in the agricultural categories. I realize there are some exemptions for agricultural uses, but it's those support uses for the rural communities that are really going to suffer here. And I'm not aware of any market studies that actually say there's a problem with how the current criteria work. In other words, I'm not aware of any market data that shows we need to reduce commercial beyond how the plan works today, and that would be the effect of this amendment. Good planning practice would actually say we should be doing the exact opposite. We shouldn't be trying to go back to 1960s inequitable single-use planning. We should be trying to increase the availability of commercial services, especially in our suburban and rural areas, so that those citizens don't have to drive and use the roadways to get to the services they need for their daily lives. These amendments, I think they're also premature because these consultants are working on very, very important updates here, and they've done a lot of work. but we're also working on future land use, amending the entire future land use element currently. I just was on an email about some outreach on that today. My concern is we're going to completely rewrite where commercial uses are located without, I mean, it's going to be in a vacuum without any understanding of how the board is going to change our current future land use element as a whole. So, with that, I really think we need some more engagement. I think we need in-person meetings. I think those are very, very important right now. I realize there was one, but it was in January, and we're on the 5th version of these criteria. So it's just been very difficult, even for those of us in the industry, to understand all the changes that are constantly being made through these 5 versions. So with that, I would just ask that you consider delaying this and giving everybody the time to work through it and have some in-person meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up on our list, we have Grace Mccomas.
Grace, go ahead and unmute
Thank
yourself.
you. Yes, I just did. Thank you. My name is Grace Mccomas, 8050 Darby Street, Sifner. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I really want to thank the Planning Commission staff for a great job they've done with this presentation. And I want to thank the citizens who donated their time and energy to this rather lengthy but definitely beneficial study. Protecting our county and preparing for the future, preserving the relatively small amount of still rural area that we have throughout the county is very, very important. We had asked for 2 ULI studies in the past, and that this planning that's been going on in this presentation has a lot of the suggestions made by those committees. I think we should adhere to some of those. If we had done this years ago, we would have a better planned area to start with. Please find this whole amendment thing to be consistent. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up on our list, we have Todd Josko.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Todd Josko, 3832 West Platte Street, and I'm speaking on behalf of NAIOP Tampa Bay, which is our region's commercial real estate trade association. NAIOP sent a letter to you expressing great concern with the proposed revisions before you tonight, and I'm speaking to those concerns. While NAIOP shares your goals of directing growth to areas of the county that are best suited to handle growth and ensuring that our commercial use best matches the needs and characteristics of adjacent neighborhoods, unfortunately, as some of the speakers before me had agreed, that the proposed CLC before you for your consideration falls woefully short on these goals. And we therefore respectfully ask that you delay action on these policies and continue workshopping this issue among stakeholders. As drafted, these CLC policies propose a significant reduction in the type, size, and scale of commercial development that's going to be allowed within the urban service area. And this results in greater automobile dependency, as residents will be forced to drive further distances to access non-residential uses, including office buildings, which will no longer be permitted close to their neighborhood. And this is exactly the direct opposite of what stakeholders said they wanted. As a lot of our speakers said, we've participated in a lot of these virtual workshops, but we don't believe there's been nearly enough consideration to the practical effect of these changes or how they'll be implemented at the zoning stage. And the presentations have focused mostly on neighborhood commercial serving uses such as retail. But as other speakers have said, these policies apply to nearly all non-residential uses in the affected plan categories, including office and medical facilities. We strongly encourage the Planning Commission to conduct multiple in-person workshops so some of the nuances can be better explained, and that these policies be considered at the same time as the future land use update so that stakeholders are better able to analyze the context of these changes. So once again, NAIOP Tampa Bay respectfully requests you please delay action on the revised CLC policies before you this evening and instead continue workshopping this issue among stakeholders. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have William Malloy. I don't think he's even here any longer. Okay. And after that, we have Nicole Nugebauer. Is Nicole?
Good evening, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Nicole Nugebauer, and I'm a land use attorney at Stearns Weaver in Tampa. I'm here today to express my concerns about the proposed commercial locational criteria update. The staff report states the primary intent is to encourage the provision of neighborhood-scale commercial uses closer to residents, which can meet their daily needs for goods and services. This goal is one of stakeholders, the community, and the county alike, but the proposed language will not accomplish this goal. My first concern is related to the square footage limitations for not only each quadrant, but also each tenant. Although there is a carve-out to allow 50,000 square foot grocery stores, many popular grocery store chains are now building grocery stores that exceed that square footage limitation, especially in areas that are planned for residential density so they can accommodate future needs in the area. If these square footage limitations are unworkable for retailers, this language will further urban sprawl by directing commercial uses away from residential, putting people back in their cars and congesting the roads. I truly am surprised that we're here discussing a commercial square footage limitation at roadway intersections, which is exactly where commercial square footage should be going under current planning principles. My next concern is the order of this proposed language in connection with the comprehensive plan future land use update. I can foresee issues down the road if this language is passed and it conflicts with the data and analysis supporting the comprehensive plan updates. This language will then have to be redrafted, and in the interim, it will stop commercial development in these areas. Stakeholders need to be brought into the conversation, and this conversation needs to be focused on the current draft of the commercial locational criteria. Applicants and engineers who are scouting sites and evaluating whether they can meet these regulations need to have a seat at the table. At this point, it will be impossible to know if the goal of this commercial locational criteria update is even feasible because stakeholders do not know what will be included in the future comprehensive plan update. This update should be temporarily paused until it can be evaluated with the comprehensive plan changes. There is no reason why this cannot wait until the community and stakeholders have time to review, comment, and engage with the Planning Commission to discuss the comprehensive plan in a holistic manner. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let me go back for a second here. Someone I skipped. We have Elise Batzel. If she is on the line.
Elise has not signed into the meeting.
All righty. And we have a Susan Swift.
Ms. Swift has not signed in as well.
Okay, and what about Hung Mai?
We did not see him sign into the meeting as well.
All righty, and that's all we had. Oh, sorry, Mr. Weaver.
Thank you very much. Very gracious of you to let us discuss something. The goal of this plan, the goal of your staff, which did make 2 or 3 concessions, but 90% of the concerns are still here. And thank you for making those 3 concessions. But 90% of the concerns are still here. Number 1, parking between the building and the street is being precluded in neighborhood serving areas. Many successful retailers will not even consider a location if there's no front field parking, including Publix and Encore 6 blocks from here, and dozens of other developments where unless you can have some front field, you can't have any development. Why? A planner named Snideman, S-N-I-D-E-M-A-N, from New York and California, gave 5 reasons why parking in the rear can be fatal. Number 1, safety. Number 2, the ability for a shopper to see whether there's a parking lot and if it's full or not, whether to stop or not. Number 3, safe access, not having the service entrance competing with your patrons behind. Number 4, the planograms and the other layouts of stores. Security, access within the store. The ability of a store to function affordably requires that you have, in some cases, parking in the front and the front field requirement. Number 2, some categories will be restricted to only 20,000 square feet. HomeSense is a new product, 26,000 square feet of TG Maxx. TGX is now trying to do HomeSense, which is all your home goods, just 26,000 square feet. There are dozens of businesses that can't meet your 20,000 square feet per tenant. Number 3, traffic, traffic, and traffic. You're asking people to go 2 miles or 7 miles for something they ought to be able to get within 1 or 2 miles. Number 4, the definition of neighborhood commercial is unfortunately atrocious. You've taken the words neighborhood commercial from general retail and business and professional and personal offices to 2 words, convenience and personal services. Only convenience stores and only personal services, the nail shop. Goodbye to the baby doctor and 100 other kinds of office by your definition of neighborhood commercial. The concession regarding one office in a quadrant doesn't solve the fatal definition of neighborhood commercial. It's a gross redlining. First time you read it, you don't believe it. It's a gross redlining goodbye of the three hearts of retail in the neighborhood commercial definition. Number 5. Some other categories have lost their 175,000 square feet for reasons that Mr. Kramer covered. The fact that reducing these things that have worked for 30 or 40 years is ironic in the sense that we want to need more retail for the 2.4 million people we will be in 2045. We need more retail for the 2.4 million people we'll be by 2045. Offices are being limited in numerous ways. They must be in scale with the residential areas around them. They may only be allowed as a secondary use in at least 3 out of 4 quadrants, and only in residential areas that are unsuitable for residential development, which is virtually nowhere. Strip development is discouraged, and it's defined as visible cars and linear. All retail is visible cars and linear. So in effect, by prohibiting strip development, you're prohibiting all retail development, with a very few exceptions, and we do appreciate the concessions, but they're not nearly enough. 90% of our concerns persist. We could work them out if we had some time. We've tried. The update proposes infusing a new context classification map, but we still have problems with whether or not a road is or is not classified as suburban whatever, or rural whatever, or urban whatever in time to get approvals, because no one has bothered to change the classification of that road in order for a development that is totally otherwise approvable to proceed. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
Thank you.
All right. And that was our last person we had sign up for the public comment. So with that, I will turn it back over to the applicant if they wanted to respond, provide any response.
Hi, for the record, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. There are just a few items I'd like to clarify with the testimony that's been provided tonight and some questions that have been asked. One was regarding the nodal separation. Mr. Weaver mentioned something about 2 miles and 7 miles. I just wanted to clarify for the record that the largest separation we have with the proposed language is 2 miles, and that also the waivers that are presented as part of the proposed language, one of the waivers proposed is for nodal separation. So if there are nodes that do make sense for the neighborhood serving commercial, we have some criteria in those policies that could be addressed by an applicant and could be evaluated by staff. The same goes with the parking in front of the building. That's the other waiver that's available in the proposed language, is regarding the building placement. So if there are geographical constraint, if there's a wetland at the intersection, if there's some reason a building cannot be placed in that location, we do have a waiver available for that in the proposed language. The other issue, the point that was brought up about auto dependence, I would argue that the proposed language is striving to do just the opposite of that. What we're trying to do here is provide day-to-day goods and services for people who live in residential neighborhoods. So you don't have to drive far to go get your gallon of milk, to maybe go get new shoes for school, to get your hair done, those sort of things. So I would say that we're actually trying to bring those services closer to the residential populations. And then regarding the office, we did make that change with the 5th draft, which is in front of you today, that the office uses, we did hear from, Ms. Corbett and others about concerns regarding office uses and having those be limited. With the proposed language, we've allowed the uses in 1 quadrant, with the other 3 quadrants still allowing the office use, but that it would be a transitional use, so more on the periphery of the node as opposed to the main principal use of the node. I also wanted to add that, we've had 4 community meetings in addition to some very extensive outreach and public engagement on this issue. 2 community meetings were built in as part of the original scope, and we added 2 community meetings as asked and requested by the public, one specifically from the industry folks from NAIOP and other people who've made comments this evening. And then my last clarification, regarding the trying to lump this study along with the future land use element update. I would say the reason that we separated this out and said that it should be studied separately, we really wanted to give it some attention that it really should have. Where neighborhood commercials place should really work in close collaboration to where those residents live. So having the CLC, the locational criteria, as the focus of this study really emphasized the importance of the connection between the residents and how they can meet their daily needs for goods and services. And I would also assert that folding updated commercial locational criteria policies into an overall future land use update, which is over 700 policies and includes a multitude of topic areas, would really muddy the waters and not give the CLC the focus that it really should have in what we're trying to do today. And with that, I'm here for any questions, and I know our consultants are online as well.
All right. I'll turn it over to the commissioners for any comments, questions, or discussions of this item. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I want to thank those in attendance for their public comment. A lot of those points were made, I think, were really valid. One of the things that I wanted to ask for staff that I heard in the public comment, we're on our fifth version of
Yes.
this language right now. With this version, when was the last time that this current version went before the public in a public hearing?
Oh,
Or
well,
in a community meeting?
so this evening is the first public hearing, but the difference between draft 4 and draft 5, the differences are outlined in the staff report. Those were pretty minor in nature, and the draft 4 was presented at community meeting number 4. So
Which was when?
that was July 14th, and that was added specifically for the industry folks that requested it.
Okay.
So the changes were made based on that feedback at community meeting number 4, the office changes and those things that I already outlined, those were part of that community meeting number 4 and then incorporated into draft 5, which is here today.
Okay. And then so once those, since January 14th, how many times have,
No, I'm sorry, if I said that wrong, it was July 14th. It was
Oh,
just like a
July
few weeks
14th.
ago, 3 weeks ago.
So this
Right.
was made July 14th.
The draft 4 was presented at the July 14th community meeting. We then incorporated some changes that were suggested or trying to address the issues that were brought up at that meeting. And I also, something that I don't think was mentioned yet today, and I think I mentioned at the briefing, as staff and as the consultant team, we're really trying to manage a lot of different interests and trying to synthesize those interests. So we had, for instance, the Keystone Civic Association was heavily represented at the community meeting number 3, and they had a lot of concerns about the rural area character. So that's a different interest, right, than what the NAP folks are representing as well. So we're trying to work with all of the interests and synthesize the information and end up with the best product that's going to serve, the residents that live in unincorporated county.
Sure. And I guess to that point where I have a concern, when I see that we had 4 community meetings, one that was very recent in July, but we've had 12 meetings with the Board of County Commissioners?
So that is on the slide, there are 12 meetings, and we did meet individually. So what we did as part of, in the November, we met with the planning commissioners here. I'm sorry, virtually, it was not here because of COVID. But we did meet virtually, and we went over, it was like kind of an info gathering session. We asked you all, your opinions on our existing CLC language, and we gathered that feedback and incorporated that, like moving forward. At that time, we also briefed the commissioners, but instead of one meeting, there were individual briefings with the consultant. Out of the 7 commissioners, 6 of them took us up on that briefing. Then again, recently, we briefed you again last month, and in lieu of briefing the commissioners as part of a workshop, we briefed them individually as well. So there you get the 12, 6, and 6.
Okay. I'm concerned that the public hasn't had a lot of time to digest what we've put forth and what we've refined. I mean, I think back to how many public outreach and meetings we had for, RP2 and WVR2. I mean, there was, a lot more public engagement, and I find personally that this, language and what it's going to affect is very similar to what, that language, in terms of what it was affecting. Obviously, it's something completely different. And there was just seemed, from what I recall, more public engagement, for those specific things. And we took a lot of time, and there was a lot of upset people, but, it's particularly more stakeholder communities, development communities that seemed a little more upset that it was taking so long, but we wanted to get it right.
Right.
And I don't feel, from what I've heard, although I just don't feel like I've seen where we've given the public the same amount of opportunity to really, digest that. And that was just like we're trying to sort of force our way through this, a little bit without having, just enough time for them. And I personally would like to see a little more public engagement. I know there was a slide that talked about certain engagement statistics, but I don't know. It went so fast I couldn't really, make any notes. But,
There's, if I may, there's in my staff report, there's an outreach subsection that went through the details. It didn't have, between when I wrote the report and today, those, the social media impressions and that sort of stuff. But the bones of the outreach are in the staff report, and it does go into detail. We did have 3 stakeholder sessions that occurred last November. We had 3 different separate sort of interest groups that we divided up so we could hear from people. I would add, for instance, for the, we had land use attorneys, applicant representatives that we see for consistency findings. The 7 NAOP members on their board were invited, and none of them came to the stakeholder meeting. So that was really our opportunity to start from the ground up and really gain some input. We've really reached out to, like Todd Josko was on this call tonight and provided some testimony. Andrea and I have a record of trying to reach out and trying to meet with him and trying to go through drafts. And I understand people are busy. I mean, we understand that. We're busy too. But we really have tried to get the word out. We have been in the newsletter several times. We have sent out lots of constant contact email blasts. We've had the ad boosted, am I getting that right? Ad boosted social media? Ad boosted social media. Sorry, I'm not a social media person. But we've really broken some ground with that, because we actually haven't done that for a planning commission project to date. That was the first one. We also broke some ground with the Hillsborough County email, the 5 for Friday, I think it's called. That was the first time that a project that we've done at the planning commission was featured on that. And that was in the beginning of the year, so that was sort of a new partnership that we forged for this. I hear what you're saying. I just want to point out that there has been a lot of public engagement and outreach for this. So.
And I don't want to make it seem that I don't think staff is doing enough. So if that came across, I apologize. That's not what that intent was.
Okay.
My intent there was really more a concern for the public and just them not having enough time to digest everything and be able to render an opinion. So again, like, staff does a fantastic job. So I don't want that to leave the room without being said. I would like to see a little more opportunity, and like for the public, especially for something that's this large, if we could give it sort of the similar respect and attention that we gave to RP2 and WVR2. I think that would just be really, really wise, and hopefully thinking about legality of things, hopefully that may not cause any one to want to bring any more lawsuits, and things like that, if we give just maybe a little more opportunity and time. So I would like to, if you could tell me where you were talking about those statistics. I'd like to imagine some other commissioners are going to have a point, and I'd like to.
Sure, I have a printout, so it doesn't have a page number on it, but it's under section 3, under the 2201 staff report, under staff analysis. It's a lot of text, so I tried to organize it in a way that made it more readable. There's a purpose section, a methodology section, and then after that is outreach. So under the outreach section, I go into pretty big detail. It's like a page and a half on the outreach that we did in the public engagement. And then it goes into the feedback that we heard from those meetings.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Commissioner Soria?
I believe that's on page 22.
Thank you.
It would make it easier.
Thank you. Commissioner Kress, did you have, I kind of saw you move last time.
Yep. So it sounds like there's a lot of trying to balance different needs. And I feel like we've had a good history here of reaching a compromise and consensus. Everybody gives a little bit. And it sounds like, you know, maybe you didn't have the attention of the NAOP folks in the beginning, but you have it now.
Right.
And you had a workshop in July specifically targeted to that. I mean, do you feel like there's still room for compromise here, or is you've kind of given as much as you feel comfortable giving, and this is what you're presenting?
To be honest, I think there's always room for compromise. I would, my professional opinion is I would hesitate to delay it at this point. We have the board scheduled on Thursday. If, you know, they decide that they are not comfortable with transmitting the item, then, you know, we could get their direction on what exactly they would like to see and what their expectations are. But at this point, moving forward, I feel pretty confident that we've heard from a good amount of folks in unincorporated Hillsborough County. You know, it's unfortunate the changes that we made that people were supportive of. Unfortunately, they're not here as a proponent, so I feel like, you know, maybe we're not getting the full story as far as that's concerned. You know, Keystone had 30 people at the third community meeting, and none of them signed up to speak, but we made some changes to the language that made them more comfortable with retaining the rural character of Keystone and Lutz and those types of areas. So, and then we, I mean, this is something we just did as staff. The slide that showed the net difference with the nodes compared to the qualifying intersections today with the language, and then what would happen with the proposed language as is, you know, there's a net gain of 499 intersections. So the context classification map is something that we really haven't discussed in depth tonight because the slides there were a lot of them and that presentation went long. But the context classification, the direction that we're heading in, you know, that's a context sensitive design, and it really did contemplate the visions of the community plans. So I feel like we're moving in a really good direction with that, and it does take into account more updated information because that is a very recent map. The map we use today is woefully outdated, and it's not even part of the LRTP as adopted today. So we're using something in our language that is, you know, from 2008, and you know, Simmons Loop, for instance, is not on that map. So you know, we get constant questions about, well, how come I don't meet CLC? I mean, this is Simmons Loop, it's a collector. So things like that is just, it's pointed us, and the increase in waiver requests have pointed us to the, you know, position that we really need to update this language. And in all the research that was done with the methodology and the consultant and the outreach that was done, and the many changes that have been made with the, you know, throughout the drafts and the document in reaction to the feedback that we've gotten from the public, I'm very confident that this is a very good draft, or hopefully final language. But again, always room for improvement, always room for compromise.
But so after the July 14th feedback, I think one of you said you just made minor changes. After you heard what the NAOP feedback was, you heard that, but then you only made minor changes?
Well, I mean, I would definitely say they're on the medium side, I guess, if I had to qualify it. The gas stations, those were not allowed in any of the residential plan categories at all. That was part of the uses were CN limited, and that allowed no gas stations. And with this proposed language, we made the change to have a smaller scale gas station, so 4 pumps or less are allowed in the residential plan categories. They're still subject to the design requirements, but really with the site and building design requirements, we're moving in a direction where people are actually going to be more connected to those uses. You know, they're going to be able to walk or bike there. They're going to be closer to their community and more on a neighborhood scale. So, and then the other change was regarding the offices. We just had office as a transitional, or like a use on the periphery of the site to transition between maybe a residential use or residential support use. And we changed the language to allow that in one quadrant. So I feel like we moved into a positive direction regarding those comments.
Thank you.
Commissioner Welk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The increase by $4.99 caught my ear, because as I was reading through this in preparation, the thing that kept ringing in my head over and over was, does this unduly shackle the development community? Does this unduly shackle development in the county? And the 499 is an important stat, but it's not just about the total nodes, it's about the use and where, right? So where was it allowed before, where is it allowed today? Further, if I think about the stakeholders in this, the development community, the residents, government agencies, I think it's abundantly clear that one of those stakeholders doesn't feel heard. And I think it's abundantly clear that if you were to ask them based on the feedback we've received, that their input hasn't been marshaled and incorporated into this current document, right? So my reading of it, I think it restricts development in the county from what we have today on a massive scale. I think it's a massive change. I think it potentially significantly downzones a lot of the parcels that we have in the county today, where we have a use today that we can develop, and we don't have it moving forward. Again, clearly some of our stakeholders don't feel like they've been heard and listened to. And I think this makes us less competitive at the end of the day. If I think of some of the developments on Polk County and Pinellas and the county to our north, this makes us less competitive. And as written, it's not something I'm going to be able to support. I know there's been a ton of good work put into this. I can see it. It's comprehensive. I would ask that we get it right rather than forward it to BOCC and meet with the development community to see what compromises can be made.
Thank you, Commissioner Lau. Commissioner Bernstein.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of great input I've already heard so far. I'm trying to channel it all. To me, when I hear, we rarely do we get an issue that raises this kind of resistance, but it happens. And, from my perspective, there's always this axis. On one side, the amount of community engagement, and it should kind of flow with the intensity, if you will, or the magnitude of the change. Here, the magnitude is substantial, so all things being equal, you might expect more community outreach, which I think, from my perspective, you invested a fair amount. But to me, more fundamentally, my question keeps coming back to, where is the fuse that's burning on getting this thing in front of the commission sufficiently quickly to get them to cross it off their list, when what I'm hearing just today from our staff is that the second draft was good, the third draft was better than the second, the fourth draft was better than the third. What made them better? The input that staff was able to receive, but also the careful thought and all the attention you guys put in. To me, it begs the question, could the sixth draft be even better than the fifth? And I know there's a tension between that and at some point trying to reach closure on this. But to echo Commissioner Lauk's comments, one segment of the community that's spoken today is the legal segment of our community. And while they're obviously here advocating on behalf of clients, they're also here as practitioners. And I worry that if we're solving one problem and creating another, where we're really going with this, because these folks ultimately will have to help all of us untangle some of this in terms of how it applies to all the stakeholders, not just the commercial interests. And that, I think, is at the heart of my biggest concern is, could it be improved? And, from the start to finish, I never had a chance to ask you, staff members, with all the great work you put into this, how much time has passed between draft 1? I heard draft 5 was mid-July. When was draft, and just ballpark it, I'm not going to hold you to it. I mean, how long ago are we talking?
End of December, beginning of January was draft 1, till draft 6, which was July, or draft 5, excuse me.
I mean, that's very helpful to me, Ms. Papandrew. Thank you, because if the answer would have been 4 or 6 years ago, and if it were, Lord knows you probably would have thrown in the towel and walked out. That might tell me something. But we've been chiseling away at this for the better part of 6 and 7 months, but it sounds like this is something that merits a heavy investment of time given the stakes. And so I have to say I'm coming down so far on the side of some of my colleagues who've spoken so far, and I'm trying to weigh the benefit of getting something for the commission to consider within the next several days based on all the good work you put in against the benefit of frankly, taking a roll of the dice and asking ourselves whether draft 6 could be even better. And I guess that's where I found myself. But thank you.
Sure. I would add the county attorney's office was transmitted the fifth draft that is in front of you today. And they had some minor comments from previous drafts that we resolved, but that there was no objection and that they were comfortable with that language.
And that is very helpful to know. And I suppose, we could call other members of the community who spoke on both sides of this issue and ask what else they might offer. But one of the challenges of this process, and it's just the constraints we're operating under, is that once the staff we have do all the good work they do, they basically advance certain goals, policies, and objectives that support our position. And I should, say what probably doesn't need to be said to the brilliant minds in the room, that for our commission to recommend against a measure like this, it's really incumbent on us to point to goals, policies, and objectives that go the other way. We haven't heard a lot about that yet. But I have to say, it's hard for me to believe that the overwhelming cascade of goals, policies, and objectives favors this version, given what we've heard. And I'm going to hazard a guess that there probably are a few that go the other way. And again, it just makes me think that maybe some more fine-tuning is warranted here. And I ask myself what the downside of that is relative to getting something wrapped up simply because members of the county are ready to consider it. And I think that's really the question that's before us today, actually. But I have to say thank you for all the hard work you put in, and a lot of people who aren't in the room who I'm sure had a hand in this. And thanks also to the people in here and the people who've spoken on the line, because clearly this is something that calls for a fair amount of discussion. The fact that chart alone, which was a wonderful tool at the outset, it could take me an hour or two, though, honestly, to work myself through that chart. And that's not a criticism of it. That's a helpful tool, but it does illustrate just how complex this issue is.
Yes, I would agree with you on that.
Thank you,
Not
Commissioner
simple.
Bernstein. Ms. Ornita?
Well, Commissioners, I thank you very much for the dialogue and appreciate very much your perspective. I just want to share a little bit about why, this is before you all tonight, because, ideally, we bring things to you like you've seen before with good consensus, and we feel like, there has been quite a bit of work that's gone into this. There are a lot of agency resources that have gone to this, and that is something that, I have as an underlying concern, is extending it further. Has a lot of benefits. It also has the unintended consequence of pushing back other things that are on our list to do, because that's what happened when Waimama and RP2 took longer. Other things, like the update of the future land use element, got pushed further back down the list. And that is something that some of the other areas of policy we hope to tackle once Melissa and Andrea got done with this study. So trying to bite off different chunks, because at the same time we have large volumes of rezonings that we're reviewing and plan amendments that we're reviewing, and those have a timeline that have to move forward. They have deadlines. So I just want to give you context to what we're balancing in terms of resources, but I certainly don't want to push something forward that's not ready, and I can count around the dais and sense that this is not ready. I do hope that if you could take a few minutes and give us some clear direction about some of the changes that, from what you've heard from the stakeholders tonight, you feel might be warranted for us to work on. One of my concerns, and I'm just going to be very frank with you all, is ultimately this gets adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. They have a very different feeling about a lot of these planning issues than you all do. I'm just being very transparent with you all. If it doesn't go to a hearing on Thursday night, we also don't get clear direction from them. If we present, I'm being super honest, but like when we present things in a workshop, they often don't say anything, or at least 5 of them don't, and 5 of them is how many you now need to adopt any sort of plan amendment. So it's hard to know where they're coming from, and to know whether or not we've got support for where we're moving forward. So if we move forward and make some of the changes, I want to know that I've got the planning commission's support in the direction that we're moving. Y'all are ultimately who I report to. And so I think the more clear direction we can have, and it's not just a completely open-ended go work with the stakeholders, the better and more productive our continued outreach and coordination with them will be. So if there are things you've heard tonight that sound problematic, I'd love to hear that from you all.
Thank you. Commissioner Cardenas.
So, kind of seeing an interesting divide here on a lot of different things. I'm curious on one thing. How often do you do something where you do 6 revisions?
Well, Andrea and I do consistency reviews, so rezonings and plan amendments. We don't typically do studies like this. So
Okay.
for us, I would say this is sort of our first time around with this. But we have managed it with the consultants the entire time. I don't know how many revisions WVR2 and
Jay,
RP2 went.
you mind being put on the spot? How many revisions there were?
Are you okay to talk about it?
Yeah, of course. Jay Collins, Planning Commission staff, there were more than 6. I think that's one of the things that you want to see. You don't want to see something that shows up here and they say, well, this is the second version. You want something that's been vetted, that's actually had that conversation with all people in the room. And in the end, there are going to be people who are not going to come away with everything that they are after. That's what happened, exactly as Commissioner Powell said, about WVR2 and RP2. But that's what we were asked to do. We were asked to go back out and continue to have those conversations. And some of the things that people asked us to go back out and have those conversations were still not finally met at the end, even when we ended up having a version 8 or a version 9. So I think in the end, what you want to be able to say is, have you had that opportunity? How many versions have you actually seen? How many months did this go through? Is this actually going past the time that it was actually allotted and you're now going 1 month, 2 months, 3 months past what this actual project was going to happen because you are having those additional conversations with people? So just a couple of thoughts from my experience of doing these types of things with the community, development community, neighborhoods, as well as in front of appointed and elected officials for a couple of years now.
Mr. Chairman, could I say something?
Hang on for just a moment. Commissioner Cardenas isn't finished just yet.
So the reason I ask is because just like anything, you arrive at a divide, right? You've gone through some revisions. To what extent, it's clear from the legal community that they're pretty on this, right? So I'm curious that there obviously has been some back and forth. They've presented changes. You guys have maybe made some changes and not others. So there has been interaction. I guess that's what I'm trying to arrive at. So if there has been consistent interaction, is it just that we've reached a divide point, and that divide point is, hey, we got to present this and move forward? Because if it was a different community, oftentimes we have some of these, and we're talking about Mccomas. And these are people that work in different industries and school teachers and all these different people that we're trying to get to come to a location. That's not who we're talking about here. We're talking about the professionals that work in this environment. So to me, I see it as, okay, have we had that, and have we reached a divide? That's kind of what I'm trying to find out, or trying to figure out. And if we did make some changes here or allow more time, well, in that same way, I think it's upon us to say, okay, let's actually sit down and have let's have a session on this, and let's really talk about this some more, so that we make sure that, if we're gonna allow more time, then everybody here has to also say, okay, well, we need to make more time too, because they've clearly put a lot of work into it.
Thank you. Mr. Chajewski, hold on for just one moment. I'm going to let Commissioner Powell make a statement, and then I'll come to you. I haven't forgotten about you. Go ahead, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To answer one of Melissa's statements about some of the items here that I've heard, probably one of my largest issues is like the building locations and having those set so close to the street. I thought it was ironic that the slide for sample A or study A, that's a wind threat. And I live there, and I love that community, and I know everything there is to know about that community. And I think it's a really great model for, you know, a lot of designs, because it's one of 2 communities, period, you know, like in our county, and it's a small one based off of West Chase. And I believe it was Mr. Weaver who brought up the fact about, you know, development and being able, you know, having things like rear loaded when it comes to commercial, and having those, you know, buildings blocking, you know, like parking, and being able to view that. There's that sort of development, I don't think we have anywhere in unincorporated, really. No, I see that as we get into downtown, Water Street, you know, things like that. But those are where we have such high residential that, I mean, so much high density where walking is already, you know, sort of a thing, or one of the main modes of transportation. No one's walking in Brandon. No one's walking in Riverview, especially not on Bloomingdale, where, you know, that's a death trap. I mean, you know, and I've raised enough, you know, issues with that, with, you know, certain developments that are coming along the road. And remember, we can't even really take into consideration, you know, traffic and, you know, because of, you know, state statute and how that happened, you know, on all that. So like, I would personally like to see that be, you know, modified, because I think how I read, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that the placement can be amended if there's issues with the site, not if the developer or the, you know, like, I think you'd said if there were wetlands or things like that, right? And so like, it couldn't actually go there. Well, naturally, you know, you just because of the site configurations, it just wouldn't work. Most likely the developer isn't gonna buy that land anyways, if it's got, you know, the wetlands there, because they're not gonna get the density bonuses and credits, you know, for all that. So I think that's a prime example of one of the elements that are in here that I think that needs to get changed and needs to get, you know, revisited in order to make this a little bit better. And like Commissioner over here said, you know, like the 6th version, if that had that in there, I think it would be a lot better.
To eliminate it completely, or?
Well, I won't necessarily know if it needs to be, you know, eliminated completely. This is probably more of a Tracy, you know, question, you know, how do you word it, you know, in the right way where it's, doesn't go away, but where it's not a...
It's not just a geographical or site constraint.
Right, where it's not a shall, it's, you know, something to where it affords, you know, some latitude there. So if there's a really good, the applicant can, you know, make a really good, you know, reasoning, hey, this is why we needed to have it like this, then, you know, we should be able to allow it, not just because the site has, you know, an issue due to, you know, wetlands or something of that nature. I mean, I don't know if even period, I mean, my own personal thoughts is no, I don't think that really should work in those sorts of settings. Now, if you're in downtown Tampa, you know, Ybor, places like that, it's already kind of like that to begin with. But in areas of like Riverview, Brandon, even Waimama, where the main mode of transportation is driving, it will most likely always be driving, you know, with cars. People need to be able to pass and drive by to see, you know, can they get into things? Because I couldn't imagine with how that rendering is, if all the buildings at Winthrop were on the front, and then now you're forcing even more people to come through there. I mean, everything is about with the county lately seems to be, they want to have the connectivity, and that's great, but the residents who are in the community now are going to be in jeopardy of more traffic, you know, starting to come through, especially like when Winthrop, if we get that apartment community that's being proposed and then removing the density, you know, up, you know, to the front, we're going to have 248 units up there, you know, and people can't see, you know, the ability to, you know, what's available there. So that's something I think it really just has to get revisited and rethought.
Okay, and I know that our consultant, Ms. Tyaski, wants to say something, but speaking of the changes and regarding the building placement, I wanted to point out a change that was made between draft 4 and draft 5 to sort of help provide some options, but also keep that more urban form where it makes sense with the context classifications. We noted that the building placement, even in the residential future land use categories, it would not apply to the suburban commercial context or the rural context. So in those 2 instances, it would not apply. It would apply to the urban general, the suburban town, and the suburban residential context classifications. So we did try to kind of zoom out and think, where does this make the most sense from a roadway classification, context classification standpoint. So that is one of the changes we made in response to that, but thank you for the feedback.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. All right, now I would like to hear from the consultant. So Ms. Tyeski, my apology for mistering you. Ms. Tyeski, please go ahead.
Thank you, no problem. I just wanted to make two comments. So we have worked on 5 drafts. We could continue working on drafts, trying to reach consensus. But I think the most important part of it is, let's talk about just the concept of it. Can we agree on the concept of what we're trying to do? So we are talking about the comprehensive plan. So we're talking about 20 years down the road. What are we talking about in terms of what's happening in the county, 20 years down the road? We're starting to, have less and less vacant land, and we're going to start to see more redevelopment, more intensification. Are we ready for that in the county? So when you look at the future land use map, that's supposed to give you the blueprint for growth, what you expect to see in the future. When you see residential areas that are very low density, R2, R4, is it okay to have an IKEA at just about any intersection in those areas? The big Home Depots or the big Lowe's, shouldn't the map show you where those community regional activity centers are located? We do have some mixed use land use categories. We do have some commercial land use categories. Shouldn't those be used for the most intensive, the largest developments that are not residential? So with this commercial locational criteria, what we're trying to do is right size the type of development that goes into different land use categories based on the density and intensity that they see today. And the second comment that I wanted to make has to do with, so we have seen a lot of suburban development come in and out, the county. That's what we see in most Florida. Should we just give up? Say, okay, let the car take over. Let's make all these developments car-oriented, and let's not think about the pedestrian or the bicycle. I have young kids, and the younger generation is refusing to drive. They don't want to drive anymore. They're tired of being driven all over town to go to soccer practice and everything else that they do. Can we plan for them? Because they're the future of the county. The idea of the Publix wanting to be locating in the back, that was what we were showing in that picture. Publix can still be in the back. The movie theater can still be in the back. But, what about, what happens along the street? Can we make that area more comfortable for the pedestrians and the bicycles, people who cannot drive, who should not be driving? Those were my 2 comments.
Thank you. I did have some comments of my own, which are a little bit different from what everybody's been talking about. Although the conversation we've been having thus far is great, getting down to the nitty-gritty of kind of what everybody wants to see this thing come out to be. I'm a bit disappointed, Melissa, not you. You've done a great job. Staff has done a great job. I'm not disappointed in the outreach at all, because I've been one of the commissioners to be harassing them since this thing started. So she meets with me regularly and we talk about these things. So I've watched this thing develop the whole time. What I'm disappointed in really is what the consultants come back with. And that's why I took a moment to hear from the consultant and listen to what they had to say. I don't understand how we pay a consultant to do research and they come to a meeting before me with conclusions like, we went from 40K to 20K because we heard the residents say so. I get that the residents say so, but aren't you as a professional supposed to vet what the residents say and come back to us with some substance for why we're making these moves? I don't hear a lot of substance in any of this. I hear a lot of wish list items and things that people want that that are completely unsubstantiated in this. 4 gas pumps. We went from 0 gas pumps to 4 gas pumps. Why? Why 4? Why not 8? Why not 20? There's no substance given for any of this. It's just, this is what we want, and the community said it, so that makes it justified somehow. Like, if I'm just supposed to hear that the community said it and just write it off. And that really upsets me a lot, because to me, it feels like I'm being taken for a fool somehow. And it's similar to the CLC, which was brought up a lot. And I had this problem with the CLC too. The consultant went through it and came back to us with really vague stuff that made no sense. So it even makes me even more nervous to hear this refer back to a CLC that, yes, we passed it, but I even made the point when it passed, it needs to be worked on more. And like Mr. Weaver said, there's still sections of the community trying to figure out what context they're in, what context they want to be in, what context this should be for the future, right? So all this kind of stuff being up in the air really makes all the stuff coming back from the consultant feel really unsubstantive. Again, this is not, I'm not blaming staff because everybody's talked, everybody's worked, but there's a level of rigor here that I feel is missing that I would like to see come back through if there is a 6. And I won't vote for this period at 5. I mean, obviously I'm the chair, so I don't get to make the motion and I don't have to come up with the objectives and all that, but I will not approve this like this because it hasn't even been explained to me in a substantive way. So those are my 2 cents. Ms. Ornita.
Thanks. Well, I did want to just mention that there were, the consultant did do study on things like gas pumps, size of buildings, a number of different things. We did not include it all in the presentation or in the staff report because of just the size of the item as it was. But I'm happy for us to provide it. I think as the applicant, I would like to request that we continue the item. And I'd like to request that as an open-ended continuance because I don't want to pick a date certain until we've had the opportunity to reconvene with the stakeholders. So.
All right, Commissioner Soria. Oh.
I wanted to add this. I was looking at the red line document, reading through it, like it seemed like a complete rewrite because there's pretty much all the policy point was rewritten. And so when I think about a draft from draft 4 to 5, like would it be easier in the future, like, oh, okay, certain changes were made because it was driven by the community and certain was driven by the stakeholders, and is there some kind of data that specifies like, okay, this policy was changed because of a stakeholder, or was it particularly changed because of a consultant coming out with something like that? Like, because for me, a draft would be like, okay, one policy changed, but this is a complete rewrite of the entire policies. So, just reading through it, it seems like the entire commercial location criteria was completely changed. Is that correct on this draft, or?
With this draft, no, it wasn't drastically different from 4.
Okay.
There were changes, but I would say this is a pretty big deviation from what's adopted today,
Okay.
which was the intent.
Okay.
Because it's very outdated and it's not very useful as it's written right now.
Okay.
And if I may, Commissioner?
Yes, always.
Thank you. With the context classification map, just for some clarity, that is an adopted map in the comprehensive plan today. It is part of the mobility section. I think it's called map 3. So if someone wants to find out what their context classification is on their roadway, they can look on that map. It's on our website. They could give me a call. I'd be happy to walk them through it. But it is part of our adopted map series that is part of the comprehensive plan for unincorporated county today. Thank you.
Commissioner Kress.
Yeah, I was just going to add, it does feel to me that taking a little bit more time, and maybe there's some additional compromise in there, but I love what you're trying to do with with the design criteria, with, assume that we can't assume the future is like the present. So I think people will be walking and biking in transit because we're going to be just a more urbanized county to begin with. So I don't want all of that to get lost in these compromises. And I never thought I would disagree with Ron about parking issues, but I think put the buildings at the street. So.
But I think therein lies this is the issue, is that you're saying put the buildings on the street, and Commissioner Powell is saying that he doesn't care for that type of design. So I think that puts staff at a sort of a tight spot and a tough position, because I'm not sure who to pick and choose and listen to, and then we have different interests, and then once we open this can of worms with the rural folks, they're also going to want to get back involved, and I'm just using them as, because I think people understand the Keystone Civic Association, but I'm just using them as an example. But I just want to put that out there, that there are a lot of interests, a lot of people that are interested in this, and some interests are mutually exclusive. I will leave it there.
I had one more question before I go to Mr. Commissioner Bernstein again. The waiver thing, this was another quandary to me. I just don't understand what happened to this thing. We've met so many times and I just don't know where it is right now. Like, it just seems like it's gone from where we've been talking about. But the waivers, so waivers are allowed in certain circumstances. But the waiver is what led us to this course of action largely in the beginning. I remember having a conversation with you and we looked up on the waivers to see how many waivers and we were like, oh yeah, we're getting a bunch of waivers. We should relook at this. And in relooking at it, we're saying, let's cut out the waivers. How does that make sense? The waivers were a good thing at the start that led us to relook at it. So why would we get rid of it now? Why wouldn't we keep the waivers and maybe we'd relook at it again in the future and move if it just doesn't make sense
Well,
to
we're
me.
just narrowing the waivers to 2 possibilities. Currently, the waiver can be requested. You can ask.
Why are we narrowing it?
Well, to try to direct the neighborhood serving uses in certain locations to serve the residents that are nearby.
I thought that's why we were changing the policy.
It is. But then also limiting the waivers. Currently, right now, you can have, you can basically ask for commercial anywhere. So you can be mid-block, you can be in the rural area, you can be anywhere, and you can say, I think I should meet CLC and I'm going to submit a waiver request. That's very open-ended, and that doesn't really allow us any sort of direction. It just says that you need to have a unique circumstance. That's very difficult to prove as well. So with this, we thought some specificity would be in order and deliver us with a better product, a better site design, a better building design. So between the nodal separation and the building placement, we felt that those made the most sense to provide a waiver option for.
Does
If
a
you have a different suggestion, I'm all ears.
Does a waiver automatically grant approval? When I fill out a waiver, does that mean what I'm asking for to be
No,
waived?
no,
gets
it's a
approved?
waiver request. So,
Right.
so an applicant would ask staff they say, I want to do this application. I would like a nodal separation request. We evaluate that as staff as part of our consistency finding and then report it to the zoning hearing master, who then makes a recommendation, and then it goes to the board. Ultimately, we say, we think you should approve a waiver or not approve a waiver. The board can do whatever the board does.
So why would we limit what people can ask for? If we have the power to say no, why are we limiting them at the front part? Again, why are we limiting it to certain conditions? You're not giving me a logic for why. You keep telling me we're doing it, you keep telling me what it's going to do, but you're not telling me why we've gone from having a waiver to not having a waiver. And if we're doing that because we're getting too many waivers, then I'd be in agreement with you. But the reason we had too many waivers at the start and we got those and we said, okay, we got a lot of waivers, the way we're going to resolve that is to revise the CLC. So now we revised the CLC and we've gotten rid of the thing that kind of alerted us to the fact that we had a problem. Again, this really doesn't make sense to me. It feels like sleight in hand here. Like I'm not a low-level thinker at all, I don't think, but this feels really, just odd. I don't know.
If I might, I think our hope is that if we have better policy, we should follow that policy and we won't need as many waivers. So the necessity for open-ended waivers without any criteria or guidance to staff would not be there because we have better policy and we should follow that policy. So quite honestly, it's very hard for staff to deal with making recommendations on something that's so open-ended and unwieldy, and that's part of what is, because it puts the consistency focus on other parts of the plan as opposed to we have some standards for where commercial should go and we should follow them. So I think that was the idea. We're making the policy better and going to work better, so we don't have as much need for waivers.
Well, if we don't have need for waivers, then my assumption is people won't use them and they'll just be there
that's fair.
unused. But why would we take the opportunity? And again, the reason I make this point is because in the first place, the waivers helped us. If the waivers didn't help us in the first place and you guys got up here and were like, okay, we're limiting the waivers, okay, well, maybe there's, but we found use in looking at what was going on with the waivers.
Well, we found use in seeing the trend.
Right.
I don't know that as planners we would say that the waivers were all approved or denied in a positive way for the overall community. So I think now, if simply the fact that a person should be able to waive it, is an important piece, then I understand that. I guess my point would be, at the point, if they really need that much of a waiver, they need a different land use category. Like, they're not Res 4 anymore. They're asking to do something that is more intensive than is appropriate for that land use category. And, I mean, not every local government allows this much non-residential uses in their residential land use categories. Where I came from in Charlotte County, you had to do a plan amendment if you wanted to do anything but residential development. You had to do a plan amendment to do commercial. You had to do a plan amendment to do office. Now, that was a lot of plan amendments. Not saying that's the right way to go. I'm just saying it's not, this is not the only way to do it. And if we're setting some limits around it, but then they just get to waive the limits.
We choose who waives. They don't fill out a waiver and get to waive. You keep saying that. They get to waive the limits. They get to submit a waiver, and we get to review it and make a decision and have a conversation. That's the point. That's the part that's missing
right.
for me.
You're right.
There's no reviewing conversation. We're going just from what we say to you do, or, you know, and that's it, really. It's what the Planning Commission comes up with, and you have these two other options, or we came up with the perfect plan for the CLC, and it's just going to work forever. Like, it just doesn't seem realistic and sound right to me. That's personal.
I think also one of the issues is that, I'm sorry, I jumped in front of you.
Real quick on the waiver
Sure.
issue. Ideally, we have a symbiotic relationship between the community, planning staff, right, and developers. Those waivers, whether it's a variance or a waiver, whatever we want to call it, under our jurisdiction, tells us where the market is moving. A developer is very rarely going to come forward when the community need isn't being met. You're not often going to see an apartment building, whether dropped in a sea of R1 when it doesn't make sense. If the developer doesn't feel like there's a need and he's going to sell that product, it's not going to come before us. Now, that doesn't mean we should always approve it. We've seen a lot of instances where the developer said meets the needs of the community, and we've disagreed. I think those waivers do multiple things. They allow us to flex, number one, and meet the needs of the community. And then number two, they tell staff where the market is moving. And then we can come do things like this, where we can augment long-range planning, right? So I think, to double down on what Commissioner Joseph is saying, I think they're a really good tool for both the developer, for staff, and for us. It really helps us gauge where the market is moving.
Well said, Commissioner Locke. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you. Commissioner Bernstein.
Yeah, all great points. I'm not going to pile on now that our applicant has already asked for continuance. It's really, it's almost unfair at this point. But you did, before you did that, you asked for, and rightly so, I think some principles, some objectives, and I think that's a good conversation to have. We won't be able to exhaust it perhaps today, but I for one, don't want to see us throw it out with the bathwater, so to speak, to Commissioner Kress's point. Progress has been made, and I didn't hear anything differently in the comments that were opposed to where we were today. In fact, I think I heard the exact opposite. We're happy to have this conversation. We want to have dialogue, and that to me is the most positive thing that came out of this. But, you know, somewhere along the line, what I heard, and I guess I have to say I'll attribute it to what I heard from the consultant, is this move from aspiration to policy, which to me I think are two sometimes fundamentally different things. And we have a lot of stakeholders that need to live with the consequences of this on both. It's not just commercial developers, and it's not just residents either. There's other stakeholders out there, and I think, you know, we owe it to all of them really to get beyond just what we aspire this universe to look like someday in the future. And that's my own view. So, you know, trying to answer your question, I suppose, Ms. Zornita, is that I don't think there's a lot of comfort level, certainly from me, maybe others, in hanging our hat, so to speak, on what, frankly, a few residents or a few commercial developers want the world to look like someday. We are in the planning business, so some of it's aspirational, but we've got to be able to at least rest on some common principles. It sounds like you're asking for the same thing. And the reality is, to your point, Ms. Leonard, I know it's frustrating for staff when you talk about design issues. I think we could come up with a million issues where half of this room would see it one way and the other half the other. there's not a month that goes by, I suspect, where at least one issue doesn't divide us. But, you know, those are things we work through all the time, and I don't think we're asking staff to do the impossible there. We'll argue, and we might have 4-3 votes or 5-4 votes one way or another, but we do want to rest on the goals, policies, and objectives that we inherited, and try to do more than simply say, few people painted a picture of what they want their universe to look like, you know, 6 months, 2 years, 20 years from now. You know, we struggle with this partly because we put ourselves in this situation. We have a future of Hillsborough plan. It's not the now, it's the future. But even the future, Hillsborough has to be anchored in some basic tenets. And I think that's what I'm hearing, honestly, from the folks in the room, is that maybe the pendulum moved a little too quickly from the now to the future. So, you know, the good news is this is the business we're in. We can figure this out.
Commissioner Orton.
I know I'm not a voting member, but I just wanted to bring up a point. It's kind of like Planning 101 regarding waivers and/or variances. The more you have, it's time to change the code. And that's what, you know, that's what we're taught as planners, that the more waivers you have, the more variances you have, then it's time that you make those changes to the code.
Thank you. Are there any more? Commissioner Soria.
Yeah, I wanted to add waivers are certainly more important. However, when I look at the objective as well, it says there are developments that do not require future land amendments in case it meets certain criteria. So I believe there was that situation when you read throughout the document, then you'll understand like it's dependent on certain situation where you don't need waivers if you meet certain criteria. So you have a more like a systematic development in certain areas. However, at the same time, there could be situations where certain things would help a certain community, and waivers would certainly help that. So we'd like to add that.
Thank you, Commissioner Soria. Yes, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. Well, we fell off there. Well, to my fellow commissioner's point, you know, when you're getting, as you said, I think, when you're getting waivers, you know, it's time to change the code. Well, how does this code, you know, help to actually do that? Like, what are we solving? You know, in terms of, you know, will this, you know, eliminate the waivers that we've been, you know, receiving? Or, and if so, how so? You know, because I obviously don't see all the waivers that come through in the request. So is that being accomplished?
Oh,
That's
we don't know
Planning
yet.
101.
That is the goal.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any more questions or discussions or comments from the commissioners? Direction from Ms. Ornita? Sign 'em? Nope. Not seeing any. Then I will go ahead. Oh, Commissioner Lau, please.
I want to close by saying it may not sound like it with all the feedback we've gotten, but there's a lot of good work in there. And to echo, I don't remember who said it at this point, because I feel like we've been marooned here for about 3.5 years, or hours, whatever it feels like. There's been a lot of good work, and we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know, period. So I want to end on a good note, better note.
I appreciate the positivity.
Thank you, Commissioner Laug. All right, and with that, I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up. Or I guess you asked for a continuance, so we're looking possibly for a motion to continue. Open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Laug? Oh, Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion that we continue, sorry, I need to, Hccpa, is it 2201, to a future meeting to be determined.
Should we set it to a specific meeting so it's not indefinite? We don't usually.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. I just want to ask a question. This is an unusual situation, to say the least. Motion to continue that's being proposed is completely open-ended. I wonder if as a part of the motion, there should be some consideration to how you want to present this to the Board of County Commissioners. what you want to ask them for? Or
Well,
tell them
If the
why?
Planning Commission has continued it, I believe we would be telling that to the board and requesting a continuance from the August 11th hearing.
But do you think the motion doesn't need any support in it?
That wouldn't hurt if
That's
you
my
wanted to
question.
say that it was to have additional discussions with stakeholders and try to reach more consensus on the policy direction. Just throwing that out there.
I think that might be useful.
Okay.
Okay. So I'd like to amend the motion, and I would like to have the agenda item continued to a future date, and for that recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners in order to allow for future stakeholder and public engagement.
All right, we got a continuance motion by Commissioner Powell. He's motion to continue to allow for more stakeholder engagement and input, advancement of the document. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. That's a motion of continuance to a future date for more stakeholder engagement and input by Commissioner Powell. A second to that motion by Commissioner Lauk. Is there any comments, discussions, or questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein,
Yes.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Kress,
Yes.
Lauk,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Soria,
Yes.
Chair Joseph.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you both for the presentation and the information and all the hard work. All right, moving on to our next item of business, 2B, Hccpa 22-08, Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment, Housing Section, and the presenter is Jay Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jay Collins, Planning Commission staff. Up for you next is your final public hearing of the night. This is the housing update, the housing element. Housing element is a required element of comprehensive plan. The state of Florida requires comprehensive planning under the Community Planning Act. This was last updated in 2008. There's a rather large working group that staff has been working with, including in-house here with Plan Hillsborough, as well as with Hillsborough County, including the Affordable Housing Services Department, Development Services, Community Infrastructure Planning, Economic Development, and the County Attorney's Office. After you leave this building, we've also been working with some stakeholders outside, primarily within the affordable housing developments. So we've had some conversations with Habitat for Humanity, Blue Sky Communities, Sarah Combs at University CDC. We also had a consultant for the affordable housing, Benesh, which was formerly Tyndall Oliver and Associates. You have had a presentation from the consultant or from staff on that affordable housing update, and it has been incorporated into this element. You've also had a briefing on this element, as has the Board of County Commissioners. So just a little bit of updates for the housing section. Anytime you do one of these, what are you doing? You're streamlining goals and objectives. Then when you go down a little bit further, we're going to focus on equal access through supply through various objectives. That goes back into the idea of this being a required element. That is part of what the state of Florida looks for you to do. It revised the affordable housing density bonus. While the state of Florida does not require you to have an affordable housing density bonus, it does require you to provide provisions in your housing element for low-income housing to be available. And finally, linking housing and transportation. That's kind of an overall sprinkled theme that you're going to see in a variety of different elements as it comes forward, so that we can have secondary planning that actually says where in the county do we want to see additional housing, additional affordable housing, and additional density. So We've got one goal, we've got 7 objectives. I'll go over those briefly. There are 89 policies that are streamlined down to 65. They're in your packet. We're not going to go through 65 policies unless you want to go through 65 policies. What you do see here is you see that there are basically a third of these are new policies, and then some of those policies have just been moved or reworked a little bit and are in there. One of the things, Commissioner, that you were talking about earlier is about how you see some strike-through underline. This is a full strike-through of the existing adopted, and so everything that you see is new. But again, this has been vetted through a couple of times with some community stakeholders, as well as with this board, as well as with the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. The goal is what you'd expect out of a housing element. Ensure fair, equitable access to housing for all people in Hillsborough County while accounting for population growth, climate change, and affordability. If we go down into the objectives, these are just the touching points, the talking points of those objectives. So the range of housing options, again, what the state of Florida is asking you to do. Development incentives. Well, the state of Florida wants you to provide housing, so that's one way in which we can do it through policy incentives. Bonuses for density for affordable housing. Finance strategies, again, linking housing and transportation. Again, this is something new that we're working through. Equal access, again, the state requires. In sustainable and innovative housing, this is obviously something that I would hope that you would expect out of us. So here are the actual objectives themselves that you can see. The underlined is basically linking its way back to those 7 terms that we spoke to briefly just a second ago. Number 3, we're going to talk just a little bit about on the next slide. Density bonuses will be utilized as an incentive to encourage the development of more affordable housing. Currently within the housing element, you have a structure for density bonuses. That's what a consultant was brought on, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. So again, that bonus structure, basically it mimics you to move to the next plan category. It does that currently, but you're not actually moving a plan category, it's just the density. So if you have a residential 20 today, you have residential 20 tomorrow, but you can go through a rezoning to ask for up to 35 units to the acre through the affordable housing density bonus. The affordability term, it is currently 15 years. That is being increased to 30 years or is proposed. A minimum of 20% of the proposed development shall be affordable. That is unchanged. So basically, remember I just said 20, and I'm, let's say 20 acres going up to, or 20 units to the acre going to 35, right? Just one. So you go to that 35, 20% of that, 7 units, right? That's your affordability that you have to set aside. So the AMI, this is increasing from 80% to 120%. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. Currently, it is set at 80% AMI or below. We now have tiers where you're trying to actually fill buckets within the area median income so that you can have a variety of different housing. Why? There's twofold for that. We'll talk about it. Number one, obviously, is the gap, and we'll show you this, the gap between the idea of how much money you have in your pocket and how expensive it is to get rentals right now. That gap is moving in this direction. It's not shrinking. Number two, well, we did this with some math involved. We challenged the consultant to do it. The consultant provided a pro forma. So basically, when you're doing a development project on this, we were looking for a 7% return. That's a basic number that they're looking for. So we can make some of those numbers work on large-scale apartments at that 120 AMI as we had our tiers. When you start moving these numbers around, you got to start moving other numbers around. You got to move the density bonuses, or you start asking questions about parking reductions or stormwater reductions and other things. So this is what I was talking about. These are 2 different sets of numbers from 2 different years. This is something statisticians tell you to never do. So what we got here is you see the 1-person, 2-person, 3-person, 4-person household. That is 2022 HUD right there telling you how much money you need to have in your pocket. That number over there on the left, those are actual rents from the 2020 ACS, the American Community Surveys. So why do we have that? Well, if you look at the 100% AMI on the 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom for Riverview and Brandon, you're already having trouble. So the money that you have in 2022 was having trouble actually getting the rent in 2020. That's the reason why we have this gap that's moving. Now, I don't have a 2022 American Community Survey that I can give you because that's not how the census works. That's not how this product works. Month over month, It's usually proprietary. We'd have to buy it. We have to have all of that. What you can get, what a lot of people are doing right now is they're using Zillow, right? So if you look at Zillow right now, you're going to find Riverview at $1,900 on Zillow. You're going to find Brandon at $1,600. Those numbers could be disputed. Sure, they could. But here's the idea. $1,900 in Riverview. Does it matter? Does it matter if it's $1,900? Does it matter if it's $1,800? Does it matter if it's $1,700? The money you have in your pocket today doesn't pay for the rent. So that's the reason why you have that movement in that AMI. So agency comments. Again, there were no objections from the reviewing agencies. You can see them there. It is consistent with the adopted sections of the unincorporated Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan. Specifically, it is with Housing Goal 2, promote and assist in the provision of an ample housing supply with a broad range of types and price levels to meet current and projected housing needs, so that all Hillsborough County residents have the opportunity to purchase or rent standard housing. And also within the future land use element, Objective 21, the county will encourage innovative means of providing housing. Where we are today, this week we're very busy. On the 11th of August, we have a transmittal hearing in front of the Board of County Commission. Again, this is a text amendment, so this gets to go to the state for its review as well as for regional agencies. And then our anticipated adoption hearing, if all goes well, is October the 13th. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission find Hccpa 2208 consistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. Forward this recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. I thank you for your time, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you. All right, we only had one person sign up, and he may not be on, but Herbert Lee Belcher. Is Herbert Lee Belcher on the line?
No, he's not.
Okay. That was it for public comment, so I will turn it over to the commissioners at this point for questions or discussions. Commissioner Lau?
2 questions for staff. The affordability term increased to 30 years.
Yes, sir.
Is that common? Is that what you would find in other communities?
Yes, sir, it is, and that was at the request of the Affordable Housing Department, and we did run that through some of those companies that we talked about with Habitat for Humanity as well as Blue Sky.
Okay. And then the second question is just for my own education on the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan. We have in here under Objective 1 that we want to drive 80% of all population growth into the urban service area.
Yes, sir.
And when we look at some of the growth ring studies that came out of Portland, that Portland was the first one to do the growth ring in 1979, there's a lot of studies that say that wasn't effective planning. Is that something that we're calling out here in this, or is it part of the comprehensive plan?
So that is within the future land use element. It is a set policy to look for 80% of growth, anticipated growth, to go inside the urban service boundary. So the idea of having it within the housing element, again, is to make sure that we can match the housing supply with the anticipated population. And Ms. Ornita, was there anything else to add to that?
I would just add that that is something that as we update the plan, we are regularly looking at whether or not we're meeting that goal, which we have historically had 90% of growth going into the urban service area or higher, but and whether or not there is still room for the projected population to be accommodated at that 80-20 split, because we know some people are going to continue to make the choice that they want to live in the rural area, and we want to continue to maintain that choice. So that is something that we evaluate each time we update the comprehensive plan and update the population projections.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jay. I wanted to ask you 2 or 3 questions. When it says the minimum 20% of proposed new development shall be affordable, is that for all types of housing, all new developments going forward? Or is that just for affordable housing? Because you understand what I'm saying? Like should 20% of affordable housing be affordable housing?
No, it would be 20% of all proposed units that are utilizing the affordable housing density bonus. So if you are asking to do a rezoning, and that rezoning utilizes the affordable housing density bonus, and you propose 100 units under that density bonus, 20 as a minimum would be set aside for affordable housing under this criteria.
Okay, so it does not mean, just to clarify, that a 200-unit apartment complex on Bay Shore needs to have 40 units set aside for affordable housing?
No, not at all. That would be inclusionary zoning.
Okay, all right. And then the other thing that you mentioned, I thought it was interesting, that in order for the stakeholders to reach their 7% return, we wanted to expand the AMI capabilities to 120%. Can you sort of expound on that just a little bit more for me?
Sure, yeah. So obviously the numbers matter, right?
Sure.
So the lower I go in the AMI, basically the more market units I have to be able to provide to offset some of those costs. So we were having trouble with the existing language that we have today at that 80% AMI to actually make the numbers pencil out. So then as we introduced that 120, we looked at ways to say, okay, if we can get it at 120, then let's start to back out of it with the help of the affordable housing folks to make sure that we still have the buckets set up for those lower income AMIs. Now, I'll say this about that. The county also has additional tools that it employs to bring affordable housing. So just like any of us who might say, well, I'm going to build a table. All right, you don't show up with just a nail and a hammer to build a table. There's a lot of different tools that you're going to use. So this particular bonus structure that we're working in, we're trying to actually expand its usefulness to actually move it to a larger group of folks who might say, yes, I can now use this. I am not specifically just an affordable housing producer. I might be able to partner with an affordable housing producer to bring this to market. Whereas currently, a lot of what we see in the county when they do have use for this bonus is specifically an affordable housing producer. So that's also part of that idea. Those are the lights going out because it's almost 9 o'clock.
Will our cards still work?
Should we take an intermission, or can they see us? Okay, all right, keep going.
Okay,
So if that answered, Commissioner.
Yeah, so that helps me. And if you could help me clarify, I believe the AMI right now is 54,000 or 57,000 roughly.
Well, in the dark.
Well, I mean,
There we go. So the AMI numbers, Commissioner. 100, I'm sorry, what income level would you like, sir?
well, just what is AMI, period?
So,
You know,
okay,
a
so
step behind.
area median income. So again, if you have 100 is your universe.
Right.
So the median is 50, right? Right, so that's the middle point. So the middle point of income at 100%, if you're one person, it's 51,700, two person, 59,100, three person, 66,500, four person, 73,800.
Okay. So what I'm curious about is, while I understand why we need to increase going from, that 80 to 120%, of AMI for affordability, and that's really where I think the county, and maybe just development overall, is starting to really land when it comes to affordable housing and new affordable housing, developments. That's where the penciling out of the math only seems to really happen. It was within that bracket. My concern, and I don't know how we can address that here, if at all, is what about those that are in, the very, very low, that 30% AMI, that 50%, AMI?
Yeah.
How does this, going to really help them? Because that missing, not even like that missing middle, that missing low, I mean, that's really where our greatest need lies in the county. From previous, studies we've had, we're 25,000 units short for that particular for those particular income brackets. We're doing a great job at that 80% to 120%, and now we're increasing that, so you're needing to make roughly $68,000, $64,000, which is not that hard to do, you know, in our area, you know, right now in like normal job. So how are we, with the bonuses that we have in place here, going to be able to help those, you know, much further down the line? Because those are the ones who are coming to the affordable housing, you know, meetings, at least for, you know, for Hillsborough County, that I hear from, you know, on a daily, you know, or, well, not daily basis, but at every meeting. Those are the ones who are, you know, crying out for help and needing help. So how will this be able to help them?
Sure. So earlier, that analogy about the tools in the table. So this is one set of tools that we have here. The Affordable Housing Department in Hillsborough County have other tools. They have other funding that is available for them for low income. When you are at 30% AMI or 50% AMI, there is very little market rate movement that happens to actually bring those affordable units without having very low interest loans that are government loans or actual monies that are going provided by the government to actually fund those projects. So part of what this is you can still obviously ask the county for monies to help with this, to bring your project to market, but the Affordable Housing Department here in the county has a set of criteria as well. So if you're coming in and using their dollars, they will have that 30%, 50% ratio that they're having. So again, these buckets that are here are a minimum bucket, and then you can move to the other one. But you are not required to move to the other one. If you as a developer can say, I can make this all work at 30% and 50% AMI, more power to you. You may do so under this specific proposed policy.
Sure. And I guess I just would like to kind of make sure that we're always cognizant of that and those lower ones, because those projects don't necessarily always like pencil out, and I think there's other opportunities that we have at our disposal for changes to the land development code when it specifically applies to a project for affordable housing. And in your introduction here, there's a great quote. It says, "Inadequate supply of housing at affordable rates, for all income levels." So I don't want us to forget about those folks that are in those lower, income levels, because those are the ones that don't have a voice and rarely are, able to actually come to these sorts of hearings and meetings, because those are the ones that may be holding down 2, 3, 4 jobs. So, I just would like to, while I'm still here, be able to advocate for those folks.
Well spoken, sir.
And make sure that we don't forget about them.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Commissioner Kress.
Just a question, Jay. I know this is for the county. I'm curious, do you know, is this pretty similar to the strategies that the cities within the county are also doing? You don't have to outline all the differences. I'm just kind of curious generally.
Do they have density bonuses? Yes. Are they the same? No. Do they go at it to actually try to bring additional affordable housing? Yes. Also, of course, the city of Tampa has a robust Tampa Housing Authority. So there's some differences involved there, but I am sure that within the future land use update, there's going to be some conversations both in the county as well as in the city about some ways to move the needle on affordable housing.
That was going to be my next question. Is there an opportunity, or maybe it's already happening, where they're all collaborating and using similar strategies?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that between the folks in development services who actually implement through the code changes, most definitely they're already working through some of this. Again, they're reviewing some of the affordable housing stuff. We'll be back in September to actually provide you with that information. I think that we've had some back and forth on land use restrictive agreements, Laura's, for both of them, because the city seems to work it one way and the county is working it a different way. So the biggest thing that we can do, I think, as an independent agency is strike that conversation and make sure that all parties know what the other is doing. There's only so many people I can invite to the dance. Well, I should say that. I can invite everybody to the dance, but it's who shows up, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for your leadership on that.
Yes, Commissioner Soria.
Thank you, Jay, for the nice presentation. I had a question regarding the gap between the AMI. You were mentioning that it keeps growing. So the study that you conducted, do we go back and review it after a year or two again and then readjust how the affordability house plan will change in the future? Because the income gap's going to continue to increase given how the situation is.
Yeah, you're right. And there are some communities within the state of Florida that actually go up to 140% AMI. So that was another reason why we wanted to raise that 120, is because some of our neighbors are at that 100, 120. And again, those development dollars will leave Hillsborough County and they will go elsewhere because they will get a better rate of return if we do not actually match in some way. I don't like it to be cold because this is for people, but we have to be truthful to speak, you know, it's a fact, right? It's a fact, but we need to have that. Now, what you were specifically speaking about, the idea of, are we going to review this? There is an actual policy in there to review and to monitor this specific policy, set of policies for affordable housing to see exactly that, so that we can go back and see, did this actually move the needle? If it didn't, we need to have those conversations. Just like ma'am who said earlier, Commissioner Orton said earlier, that if you have the waivers, things are happening. You need to do something about it. So if we don't get a return on the investment of this policy, we need to do something about it and go back and open it back up. Good question, sir.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments, discussion items from the commissioners? Commissioner Bernstein.
Really quick practical question, probably doesn't need to be asked, but since we just a moment ago voted to postpone any decision on 2201, is it fair to assume that there's no linkage between that and 2208 such that if we were to put this in front of the commission, they could entertain it separately?
Yes, absolutely. They can be handled separately.
Great, thank you.
All right. Were there any more questions, discussion items, or comments from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time, I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we find Hccpa 2208 consistent and forward this recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners.
All right, that's a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Powell. Is there a second to that motion? Any? Commissioner Soria?
I'll second that.
All right. So motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Powell, a second to that motion by Commissioner Soria. Are there any more comments or discussion from the commissioners on this item? Not seeing any. At this time, I'd like to ask the clerk to go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Bernstein,
Yes.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Kress,
Yes.
Lauk,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Saria,
Yes.
Chair Joseph.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. All right, that was our last bit of business. Thank you, Mr. Collins. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.